Hello, welcome to Philosophy, Science, and Religion. Today's podcast is the audio extracted from a Google Hangout on June 28th, 2017. Originally, it was going to be a debate between Poffo and Peter over veganism, but instead we just talked, and Poffo also introduced me to his friend Nicole, who joined us briefly on the Hangout. So overall, it's a good talk about veganism and pantheism, and it's a little bit less than 3 hours long. So if you like to listen to us talk, then this is good for you to listen to. Anyway, I'll play the audio now. Thank you for listening. Hey everybody, it's Chandler Klebs here, and I'm with my good friend Poffo Ortiz, and we may soon be joined by Peter Moriarty. Poffo and Peter have been longtime friends, and they all both have their pantheist movements, but they disagree on the veganism. So hopefully we can hash some of that out today, maybe. But now, Poffo, you had something you wanted to read.
I'm still trying to get a hold of him. Yeah, okay, so his earlier comment, and this is, let's just like make this a conversation between me and you for a minute, Chandler. Think about this for a minute. He he sent me a quote just out of the blue. I just thought it was really telling because it sort of designates his position, his stance on things. And the last instant message conversation we had, the last private message conversation we had on Facebook, really position for a long time, but this last conversation is just a perfect representation of it. So he sent me this quote. It says, "We depend upon other creatures and survive by their deaths. To live, we must daily break the body and shed the blood of creation. When we do this knowingly, lovingly, skillfully, reverently, it is a sacrament. When we do it ignorantly, greedily, clumsily, destructively, it is a desecration. In such desecration, we condemn ourselves to spiritual and moral loneliness and others to want." That's by Wendell Berry. And I read it and I thought about it and I said, what a bunch of bullshit. That was my response. I literally said, what a bunch of bullshit. And he goes, not my words, just a quote I thought I'd share. And I said, well, he was wrong on that count. I said, maybe that was true in ages past, but it holds no relevance or meaning today. Then we get into this thing where he goes, well, I tend to agree with you with that, but he was using a play on words. He was trying to say that you can't lovingly and respectfully and whatever, kill, but we should be able to. And if we were able to, then it would be acceptable. So what I said was, what you're advocating for is a romanticized version of reality in order to justify slavery, oppression, and death. And you know what I'm talking about. He says in a modern setting, doing so lovingly, knowingly, and with reverence is pretty much impossible because he's against factory farms, but he's not against killing and eating animals. And then, so I said, how do you lovingly slaughter an innocent who doesn't want to die? And we went back and forth a little bit. And he's just saying that animals aren't killed reverently, and that's what the real problem is. So it's this position of humanely raised, humanely slaughtered. And then it went on, and he goes, I said, is that really your stance, Peter? Do you really, really believe this? I said, sincerely. I said, you have no vision whatsoever of first world countries transitioning to 100% plant-based diets, that in first world countries we can do this, that it's completely feasible, that it's practical, and it's necessary at this point in order to save the environment and our health and our ethical and moral evolution as a species. He says, I'm not sure how any vision of mine would matter. I promote SCOSH. That's his acronym for, sustainable, compassionate, organic, safe, and healthy. I think those are the words. He says it's not about first world or second world or third world. He goes, that's permanent for all time. Like his model of SCOSH as his dietary plan of SCOSH. He goes, that's my vision. I said, if SCOSH includes slaughtering animals, then your answer is obviously no. He goes, what is best for all times and places? Does it include slaughtering animals? Is that one of the S's? Not in my version. What is compassion? I leave that to others to decide for themselves. I was like, so that's moral relativism, basically. You're not taking a stance. You're saying let everybody decide what's right and wrong on their own. He goes, what makes me the final authority on compassion? Nothing. He goes, it's okay if that's what you choose. I said, it's not that complicated, Peter. You're playing word games here. He goes, but you see, that's where you don't get it. He goes, my definition. And I said, you know something? This is actually starting to piss me off. I said, I've given you the opportunity to prove me wrong. I've been open to your perspective this entire time, and you've done nothing but convince me otherwise. He goes, in my version, I eat some dairy, eggs, etc., because that sits fine with me. He says that sits fine with my conscience. He goes, if you choose to condemn me for my personal choices, there we go again, personal choices, right? If you choose to condemn me for my personal choices, which need not affect you, that's your choice, not mine. And I said, your personal choices are not your choices, not just about you when you're imposing your will upon another sentient being. I said, they affect others, Peter. That's the point. Others whom I care about, who's obviously the animals. Yeah. He goes, you just don't get that notions of moral superiority are delusions and dangerous ones. I said, moral superiority. I said, you know what? I said, you're a spineless wimp. I was like, from where I'm standing, you're a moral relativist, and you're a wimp. You stand for nothing. I've had so much respect for you all this time, but I'm starting to realize you actually don't stand for anything. He goes, but have at it. Just don't endanger me or my loved ones, something. I said, I'm calling you out on it. I was like, do you actually, I said, what do you actually stand for, Peter? What do you stand for? And he got butthurt because I called him a wimp, a spineless wimp. You know, I'm just saying the idea of moral relativism.
I just got to say, Poffo, I agree with you, because see, this moral relativism, that's your personal choice, but don't condemn me for my personal choice. This language of personal choice, I absolutely hate it. Anybody who knows me knows this, because I feel that it's a dodge. It's a very cheap, cowardly way to get out of a real discussion of what is sustainable, what is compassionate, what is healthy, and we already have the facts, Poffo.
And what I want to say is, I don't know if it's a dodge. I think they literally believe this, because they're not thinking about the animals, they're thinking about themselves. They're thinking about their lifestyles, their choices, their decisions, their sacrifices. That's all they're thinking about. It's because they're not witnessing the horror and the abuse and the cruelty, and they're not making the connection of how unnecessary it is. So I think they're literally saying what is true to them is that this is just why be involved with my eating habits? You know, worry about yourself, don't worry about me. This has nothing to do with you. And they don't realize it has to do with the entire planet, with the environment, with the health, with the medical system. It has to do with what they're putting in their kids' bodies. It has to do with human evolution and the progress we make as a species in terms of our ethical and moral evolution.
Yeah.
Anyway, real quick, let me just finish this conversation so you can bring you up to speed on this. So he says, "Are you this naive?" He says to me, "Unable to understand basics." I said, Peter, I generally have great respect for you. The more I think your wishy-washy position is just sad. He goes, is there really this thick of a mask over your eyes that you do not see what I stand for with every word that emerges from my fingers and mouth? I think you know exactly what I stand for. I was like, I thought I knew. I really did. I don't anymore. He goes, it's just not radical enough for your messianic tendencies. This is talking about me. He's saying your messianic tendencies. And I was like,
hold on, I just realized I should probably be wearing my headphones just to make sure we don't get echo.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, continue.
So this is the part I want to read. He goes, you are a fanatic, Poffo. I am not. He goes, but that's okay. But you're just going to hurt yourself. Mostly, I wish you less suffering. He wishes me less suffering. But I can't stop you from. Wait, but I can't stop you from seeing yourself as some kind of martyr. I was like, that's interesting because he's the one that originally had the martyrdom complex. He's the prophet of biotheism. He's the prophet of biosophy. He'd give up everything. We were just talking about on the last podcast that it shouldn't be all about sacrifice, right? That there should be more of an idea of sustainability. He says, I'm a prophet, I'm not a martyr. I'm a martyr. I was like, well, I'm glad you changed your tune. You used to have a very strong Christian martyrdom syndrome. And I think I mentioned somewhere that he's filled with pride. You know, I said, what hurts me is highly educated people like you who are actually the epitome of foolish because you're so smart, you're so educated, you think you know everything, so you're not open to any kind of new and emergent information. I said, you're filled with pride. And he says, filled with pride, he goes, because I refuse to be ashamed to eat eggs with honey or to eat eggs and honey. This is what he says. I'm filled with pride because I refuse to be ashamed to eat eggs and honey. He goes, you can't realize how disproportionate your indignation is. Hyperbole, all of it. Am I saying it right? Yeah, hyperbole. I refuse to be ashamed or guilt-tripped about meat, and somehow that makes me your enemy. See how he's got it all mixed up? He goes, I'm not going around making enemies of my fellow humans, including you. I'm not disparaging your identity. You are trying to hurt my feelings, and you can't, and that's the problem. I was like, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. Like, what are you talking about?
So when were you ever trying to hurt his feelings? And
because
you're not
because I said he was spineless. I said he was spineless about his position. And he goes, you need to look at your own true motivations, and it's more about how people see you than it is the animals. Of course, you will disagree, and that's apparent. And I was like, you are so wrong, Peter. I was like, I've never tried to intentionally hurt your feelings. I was like, that's just fucking stupid. And you're wrong about me and my intentions. But I'm not going to do this through a goddamn PM. I was upset at this point, so I was using a lot of profanity. I said, if you want to hash this out, let's do it through a video call. He goes, I'm not mad at you. I know you have good intentions. I was like, well, thank you, but I really want to clear this up. He goes, that's why I continue to try to work with you and not against you. Well, I'm not trying to work against him either. I've been trying to work with him the whole time too. I go, Peter, I want you to show me if you're right and I'm wrong about this. I'm open to that. I'm totally open that if the idea of permaculture, and I don't even know how to explain it, but the idea of the collective is more important than the individual animals, or that my position is too extreme, but that the veganism itself is an extremist position, as he states all the time, or that I'm a fanatic. I mean, he just called me a fanatic. Also, he goes, I know you are a good person. And I said, are you listening to me? I was like, you've just made your case as clear as you've ever made it. I understand your position. Now let's hash it out. He goes, it's not about what's right or wrong for me. That's very old school, and that's why I oppose indoctrination. I am beyond good and evil. I was like, okay. He said, right and wrong. I was like, I said, seriously, I want to hash this out. He goes, call that moral relativism, but it's not. It's the only absolute that makes sense to me. I was like, the positions that we just expressed in this series of messages, perfect. Now we just need a moderator. I was like, don't say anything else. It's just going to distract from the real issue, please. I was like, I'm going to set up a Google Hangout. Will you join me? And now let me read his responses. I don't believe that's something anyone can achieve. Who's to judge, Chandler? That's like asking you to let sun. Anyway, I think for you, veganism is right. I applaud your choice. Okay, so this is what I was afraid of, is that he thinks that you might be biased, and this is very important. We need to communicate to him. We need to communicate to him that you are not here to judge who's right and who's wrong in the situation. You're literally just a neutral voice that's sort of helping with the discussion. That's right. All. Like, you don't have to interject anything. I just want you to sort of observe and witness the conversation, the dialogue, because I need to get it fleshed out and clear what he stands for and what he believes in when it comes to the preservation of life, when it comes to love and respect for nature and for plants and animals, for the earth, because I see veganism as the only logical solution if you're an environmentalist, if you talk about permaculture, if you care about sustainability, if you care about human health, if you care about the survival of our species. But he doesn't see things that way, and I'm trying to understand his perspective. He thinks that's an extremist position, and we should not be imposing or have this superiority complex. He thinks that veganism is all about being sanctimonious. He thinks it's all about imposing and dictating what others should put into their bodies, and it's not. So somewhere there's a meme that says, "I'm not telling you what you can eat and not eat. I'm telling you who I defend. I'm talking about who I'm standing up for. It's for the injustices that are occurring. No one is thinking about the animals. Why are we having a discussion about thoughts and feelings and who's butthurt and who's getting offended? We're not talking about that. We're talking about unnecessary abuse and cruelty that can be completely done away with, at least in first world countries at this point in time. And yet we're talking about all this pseudo-intellectual psychological bullshit that means nothing when animals are having their teeth ground up and their claws, cut off and castrated without anesthesia, and patches of skin, sliced off the sheep, before they're sheared, and their tails cut off, and imprisoned and exploited and oppressed and enslaved and sexually violated for us, to enjoy their flesh and their products. That's what we're talking about. So why are we talking about anything else? Because everything else that we talk about is just a distraction, and it's indicative of a person who's not watching the videos, not looking at the reality of what's taking place. That's the problem. Is it's
absolutely.
all talk.
Yeah, basically, Poffo, what you're saying here is those animals who are being tortured constantly, they don't care about the psychological bullshit. They don't care. They don't care about people's definition of morality and of their personal choices. They don't care about any of that. They don't even know that stuff. All they know is they're suffering, and we can stop it. But unfortunately, we have to battle with these other humans, and it's very disappointing. But yeah, I mean, if we can get Peter on, so basically, am I just kind of like, the peacekeeper, just kind of the announcer kind of person?
Sort of like the neutral moderator, because since you are a vegan, since I am a vegan, since we're 100% in agreement about things, you can't really interject because he's going to take it as one-sided. There's a conflict of interest here, so you can't really play the neutral referee role. But that's what I want you to do, because we got to hash this out, man. Like we both feel so passionately about this.
Right, absolutely. And second of all, there's nothing I need to say, because everything that I would say, you're going to say anyway. You're good at talking, Poffo.
Trying to convince him.
Okay, I might want to use the restroom while you're still trying to get a hold of him.
Yeah, go for it. Have you sent him an invite yet?
Yeah, I messaged him with the link.
He looks like he's saying that he looks like crap and he doesn't feel well, and he's making excuses. He always makes excuses. I've been trying to do this. How long have I been trying to do this? I've been trying to do this since Thanksgiving. Was it last year?
Yeah, you're right. We had our Thanksgiving battle of the biopans, but you've been trying to get him on repeatedly, and for some reason he will just argue with you over a few messages on Facebook, but not
a few, hundreds. We've gone through hundreds and hundreds of private messages and debates and discussions in these extremely long, like elaborate threads on his page that end up just consuming us, and we go all day. And I'm literally just trying to get him wanting to have no podcast for a month.
Yeah. Well,
he's still making excuses, but he goes, how many times have I asked to schedule something? I've been wanting to have a real podcast for a month, and you give me no heads up when you're ready. You want too much from me. Expect too much. I'm only human. He's like, I don't know. Man. He's like,
yeah. Well, what he's got to understand is sometimes these things are the spur of the moment, because it turns out like I'm available tonight. I wouldn't even be ordinarily available.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
we don't mean to like throw this together last minute, I mean, I hope he can join. I mean, but if he has something else where he really can't do it tonight, you and I will have a good talk regardless.
Okay, yeah. I mean, yeah. Because we always do. It's always productive. It's just I gotta ask myself a question. Why do I care so much? Why do I give a damn? Why is this guy so important? When I don't know, like he represents something, I mean, I wouldn't be where I am right now if it wasn't for him. And I've said this many times that he is the one who influenced me to create Biopan, and it was originally us working together and me supporting his philosophy, his codification of pantheism.
Well, here's the thing, Poffo, is when you know someone, when you've been friends with someone, you see the good in them and you see the bad as well, and you wish to bring out the good. And here's the deal. Many people, from a human perspective, are nice people. If you consider only human life, yeah, they treat other humans pretty nicely. But they're missing these other animals. Like they're not seeing the connection, realizing that they're supporting the rape and enslavement and murder of those animals. And I realize they don't know better. And see, the people I work with that are my friends, I care about them greatly. You know what I mean? I know these people, I hang out with them and stuff, and I want them to see it. And it's like I use every opportunity I have to educate them on veganism, but at the same time, I'm terrified that I'm going to get combated by a group of people at once, because I know how people are hostile to this idea.
You're talking about in life? I'm sorry, because I was typing. You're talking about in life, though, like having people actually criticize you and gang up on you?
I'm just afraid of that, it hasn't really happened yet, but that's because right now they haven't really asked me my reasons for it. You know what I mean? They just think that I'm vegan for health reasons. They think we
talked about that last time. I really think you should just speak your mind, man, because you know how to speak your mind. You're actually a good speaker, and if it's just the kind of the social anxiety part of it, I can understand that.
That's the thing, is you understand that I've never been one to speak as plainly as I do with you and the other guys in the podcast. I've never done that in public with people. I can speak into a camera and I can speak with people who are already on the same page, because I know there's not going to be, them combating me.
So you're actually afraid of conflict? Do you have an anxiety about conflict? Yeah. Chandler, what's the worst that could happen? I mean, if we're not talking about someone physically threatening you and
Right.
someone getting in your face, someone who's hostile. If we're just talking about, these are just words, man. Like literally words can only hurt you if you allow them to. And
well, here's what I'm afraid of. Okay,
let me physical danger.
Right. Let me explain what I'm afraid of, Poffo. You know, okay, I'm a very sensitive guy, okay? And you may not see this, but if I'm pushed too far, I can get emotional, I can get combative, and I can say emotional, crazy things. And then you know what? If that happens, you know what will happen then? People look at that vegan, he's crazy, I don't want to be like him. So I'm afraid that I will give veganism a bad name if I get emotional, which will happen if somebody pushes my buttons. And I
I mean, everybody pushes my buttons, but I push right back.
Yeah.
But like when you say emotional, I mean, do you mean that you might like yell and get upset, or do you mean like break down and cry? Like, what are we talking about here?
Probably both. Yeah, I mean,
I would probably say, it would not reflect well on the cause.
Right.
To start crying. I would say likewise on the other end of the spectrum, it wouldn't reflect well to get really angry and enraged. But at the same time, I mean, this is what I feel constantly. I feel anger and rage and hatred, while at the exact same time I feel an enormous swell of sympathy and empathy and love and compassion. Like, that's literally who I am. I am filled with like this at all times. I am the dichotomy of love and hate. I hate the actions of other human beings. I love the earth, and I love all animals, and I love life. And it's that's what we wrestle with, and just trying to find balance and equilibrium and reflect what's most effective to help our cause.
And see, here's the thing about it, Poffo, is, now it should not be this way, because people should be willing to listen to people regardless of whether they raise their voice or whether they're breaking down crying. They should listen to them just the same. But I know how things work. I know how people, they look at the one who's unemotional, who's rational or logical, and they view them as right over the one who looks like they're all emotional.
Right.
And even though that's wrong, I know people are that way. So what I try to do is I try to keep my cool. I really try to just remain calm and not show my reactions. But it still hurts. It still hurts when I have to hear that bullshit.
Of course, this is what I just explained, is that we constantly feel the pain of the world. We feel we feel heartbroken almost 24/7. And at the same time, we're also motivated and inspired and motivated because of the urgency and because of the violence and the cruelty that exists. But it's about channeling that into altruistic, positive, a positive response. So I mean, we do that through our podcast. You're saying that, like, in person, you might not have the same composure. I mean, because I guess we're friends, and it's not like you're dealing with a stranger, right?
Yeah. And see, here's what you understand, Poffo, is I have always run away from conflict. When I found out I didn't believe,
I remember you said that one.
Right, and see, and like, for example, when I no longer believed in Christianity, I just ran. I just quit going to church. I stayed away from those people, and because I did not want to have that discussion with them that, hey, your religion's bullshit, and then have them get mad at me for pointing it out. And
well, I mean, that makes sense, though. That's not necessarily that you're a scaredy cat. I don't want to have anything to do with them either, because we're worlds apart. We're literally functioning on two totally different wavelengths.
Right. But I felt like a scaredy cat, because of how terrified I am of conflict. You know what I mean? Plus, I don't really think that there was anything to gain by it. And so I try to pick my battles if I'm going to have them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's I do it through the internet, partly because of the fact that I'm talking with people who are, for the most part, they can be talked to. They have experience talking with people who they disagree with. Like, if you've heard Trick and I, we've had our disagreements, we've had our fights, and sometimes I've said some crazy stuff, got mad at him on Facebook, but then I apologized later. He's like, "Oh yeah, it's cool," because Trick knows,
Me too. I mean, same with Trick as well. I have a great amount of respect for him because I understand how he thinks. He's completely left brain. He's all logic, and I can't argue with his logic. He's like my Vulcan. He's my Vulcan friend.
Yeah, that he is. Yeah, and I wanted to tell you,
but he's always respectful. Trick is always respectful, and I understand his motivations, and that's why I'm able to disagree with him. I'm able to disagree with him in a polite way, and I completely understand and respect his position. I mean,
Yeah.
That's what it really means to be a true philosopher.
Yeah.
And to be able to engage in civil discourse. That's what it means.
Yeah.
And he is. Yeah. He's mature in that way.
Yeah. So it's actually gone pretty well when you consider the average person on the street, how they handle somebody who disagrees with them. But what I wanted to say, that talk I had with you and George Sunday in our podcast, it really made me think, and I realized that that's what I was feeling as I was feeling like it's wrong for me to have any happiness. You know what I mean?
What are you talking about, man?
Well, yeah, like you were talking about, about back in your Christian days, like you felt like you have to suffer. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the martyrdom syndrome.
Right, and that's what I'm realizing is, I would feel bad about having any happiness because I know all those other animals who are just in constant torture, and I could not allow myself to enjoy anything good just because I'm so focused on that,
It's like survivor's guilt. It's like survivor's guilt.
Yeah, but then I realized something. I was thinking about it for the past few days, and I realized something. Me being miserable is not helping them. No matter
George made that point. Remember?
Yeah, he said that. And it's true. I'm not helping anybody else by being upset. So there's no need for me to be that way. I should be as happy as I can be, and yet, that doesn't take away from my awareness of what's going on.
Absolutely. But of course, it's difficult. It's difficult to maintain, an amiable, that kind of levity, when we're exposed to so much horror and violence and cruelty. I deal with it every day. I honestly don't know how I deal with it. I just one sort of tactic I use is, it's not very effective, but I try to think this way. What animals suffer in the wild is also horrific and atrocious, and what they're used to having to overcome and deal with in their tenacious struggle for survival, just with other predators, with other animals. It's a constant struggle, and it's violent and it's brutal. And animals are devouring each other, eating each other alive, ripping each other apart. So, and Trick would agree with this, obviously.
Yeah,
I think of that and I say, well, they're going through that out there. They're going through it with us, which makes it all the more tragic because they don't have to go through it with us. But we're just another animal, basically, abusing, exploiting them. I try to tell myself that, but it goes on for such a prolonged period. It's difficult because it goes on for so much longer than it would in the wild. In the wild, it's very quick, and animals die and do everything very fast. We're so methodical in our tortures and in the enslavement that we impose on them.
And I had a conversation with Gaius about that actually on another hangout. Yes, there's all this killing of animals by other animals out in the wild, but it's nowhere near as prolonged over the span of months and even years. And then the slow, painful ways, like the way they'll slit a cow's throat and just have the blood drain while that animal is still conscious and in terrible pain. Like,
that's kosher, but it's kosher because that's what God commanded.
Honestly, I would rather be bitten in the neck by a hyena and killed quickly rather than that. Like, you know what I mean?
Hyenas are especially brutal and primitive. I mean, they'll eat the genitals first, and they'll start to eat. It's crazy. They'll start to eat through the anus and the rectum to get to the soft parts of the intestine. So they'll actually go for the lower quarters first, which makes it horrible for animals. I think about snakes who will devour other reptiles, other snakes, other amphibians alive. Sometimes their hindquarters first, and so or animals that devour other animals whole. I'm trying to think of who does this. A pelican, perhaps, would devour a fish whole or whatever, and literally it's just digested slowly in the stomach acid. So yeah, of course there's horror and violence in nature, but you can't call it evil because they are doing what they're doing out of necessity for survival. They're doing what they're doing based on instinct, and they don't know any better, and they don't have a choice. We do. We have the choice. That's the difference. We're not primitive animals. We're highly evolved, sentient, sapient primates who can live on vegetation and a plant-based diet.
Well, I would go a step further, Poffo, and I would say if somebody wants to, they can call that evil. They can call what wild animals do to each other evil if they wish. But here's the difference. That may be a necessary evil because there's no way to stop that. But humans doing what they do to those animals, that's an unnecessary evil, and we've proven it. The very fact that so many people have gone vegan shows that humans can do that. And if we can do it, then
we should. Let's say it might be an evil activity or an evil circumstance in the fact that it creates harm and suffering. What I meant was it's not evil on the part of the animal. It's not actually evil on the part of the perpetrators or those involved because it's necessary for them and they actually don't have the moral capacity. Obviously the higher primates do, dolphins and whales, cetaceans and the great apes, primates do. They have the first hints of showing moral capacity and an ethical level of altruism. But the other animals, they don't even have that capacity yet. Their frontal lobe, the neocortex, is not developed in them. So you literally can't call it evil in terms of their actions. The activity itself, is a necessary one, is a necessary evil for their own survival. But we've extrapolated and we've made these sort of predictions and these speculations that if humans could get their shit together, we could potentially end all violence and pain and suffering. I think we had a really in-depth conversation about that somewhere. I don't know if it was on a podcast or just like a Facebook thread, but talking about how we would intervene and actually establish, save some animals, keep animals from reproducing and breeding, allow them to live out their lives in the most pain-free way possible.
And I mean that's a good motivation too. Like that's kind of what Trick thinks. Like Trick thinks that like human race shouldn't die out immediately because we should stay around to help the other animals. Whereas I'm just less hopeful. I don't think humans are gonna get their shit together, so it's best for us to all go extinct right now.
Chandler, if you have no hope, why do you do what you do? Why do you do any of this? Why do you even talk to me, man? If you have no hope,
I'll tell you why, Poffo. Just in case I'm wrong. Just in case I'm wrong. I have my predictions that we're all doomed, okay? But just in case I am wrong, I want to make sure I've said what needs to be said, just in case people change, even though I may not expect them to. Because I'll tell you what, Poffo, I want to die with no regrets.
Yeah, me too. And I already regret a lot. and I'm doing all that I can, and I still regret.
Yeah.
I'm making a post right now to see if anybody else wants to join us.
Okay. Yeah, it's too bad that Peter's not joining us. He does this.
He always does this, and he says he's not feeling well and he's sick and blah 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 blah. I mean, he actually did look kind of shitty last time I did like a FaceTime with him. It scared me. I was calling him, and I was going to do a video chat. I wanted to talk about some stuff. I was actually really stressed out because it was when Amber's parents were cooking the meat in the house, and I left the house, and I was like, ugh, I felt nauseous. So I was trying to get a hold of him, just out of all people, right? I'm going to talk to him about it.
Oh, he's not the good person to talk to.
But but he was totally understanding, and he was totally like sympathetic, and he actually sided with me, and he said, you have to lay down the law and actually have a conversation with them, but they have to respect your home and stuff. So, but point is, like, when he showed up on the FaceTime, I was like, huh, like he looked really rough. I don't know if he just woken up or what, but he kind of had a very weathered look, and I really don't want this whole podcast hangout to be me talking shit about Peter, but he might be going through some stuff, I mean, we're all going through stuff, like.
Yeah, we all are. So yeah, I mean, yeah, seriously. I mean, if some other people can join us, that's good too. Or if the two of us just have a good talk, that's important too. I've been trying to focus on some happy stuff and try to.
Yeah, I know you were bummed out for a while there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just uploaded some videos of me trying to sing. That should be fun.
Oh boy. Man, I have to come up with a new name for what it is when a person is completely lacking in any level of self-consciousness.
It's called autism. I think it's called autism.
well, no, there's got to be a word like no fucks given. You don't care, man. Like on that last podcast, you were talking about your ponies and stuff. I'm always like,
oh man, you're gonna love one of the recent videos I just uploaded because I'm singing while I show my horses. So yeah. I guess
the fact that you're asexual, that's a big part of it, because you have no insecurities about appearing to be gay or feminine. You're not gay and you're not straight. You're just like a unicorn trapped in a man's body.
yeah, exactly. I am a unicorn trapped in a man's body. Okay, so first of all, now we've established I'm not trying to get laid, so I'm not worried about impressing the ladies. Okay. Although I probably do, because I like unicorns, and a lot of girls like unicorns. Okay. Oh, speaking of which, okay, my friend Lucas, okay, his mom is into unicorns. Her whole house is unicorns. She's got unicorns everywhere.
Really?
And I go in there.
You saw it? It's like you're heaven, huh?
Yeah, so I go over there sometimes to play video games with Lucas, and I'm like, whoa, unicorn heaven. Like, whoa, man, it's like a museum to me.
Hey, check it out. An old friend of mine, Nicole, wants to join in the chat, but she's saying the link that I've provided isn't working.
That's strange.
What would it be that I just copied and pasted what was in the browser up top? So where the correct link would be?
It's now it's the one that I sent you in the Facebook message.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna change that real quick and see if we can get her on. This girl puts up a fight and really has an incredible amount of education and knowledge in terms of health, environment, every aspect of veganism.
Oh, cool.
And she'll write novels like in response when I call on her to Peter or on the Big Pan page. She'll literally write. I don't think anybody reads her stuff because frankly it's like overwhelming probably to them. But she's a great she's a great activist and a pantheist and a vegan.
Yeah. You know, and this whole pantheist vegan thing, like I'm seeing the connection, but it's hard. It would be hard.
I hope so.
Yeah.
By now.
Yeah. See, here's the deal. It's hard for me if I was to explain it to somebody else, though. You know what I mean? Because I don't talk about pantheism with people in general, because if they Google pantheism, they're gonna find weird shit out there that has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
But if they Google biopan, if they Google biopantheism, they're going to find everything I've ever environmental ethics and
Right.
care and concern for the earth and social justice and the intersectionality aspects of it, and also obviously my comprehensive ontology, the cosmological perspective, everything based on science. It's much more than just vague, undefined, nebulous pantheism as it exists in the world today, because it really doesn't exist.
Right.
So biopan is going to be the first codified, formalized, official form of pantheism that actually takes action and actually involves animal rights and environmentalism and deep ecology and a real significant a spiritual practice that's not just left up to interpretation. Obviously, it's personal to you and however you experience it, but there is something that we are presenting here, and it's that nature itself is divine. And
see, because how I get it is this understanding that we're all just part of nature, we're all part of this one universe. It means we're all in this shit together. It means we need to treat others like ourselves. We need to follow the golden rule. That applies to the other animals as well as the humans. And it makes perfect sense. And I just wish that there was more of this kind of thing. Unfortunately, general pantheism tends to be just like this weird philosophical belief that God and the universe are synonymous, which I have no use for that personally. I don't even care about that anymore. But
how about saying what God really is, instead of this idea that God and the universe, because we already have a preconceived idea of what God is. Let's just say we know there is no transcendent personal anthropomorphic God, but what we do know exists that is all powerful, literally everywhere at once, and is a tangible, autonomous, self-sustaining living system is the natural world, and that's incredible. That is what we, and when you teach science and biology and cosmology and astronomy and quantum physics and anthropology and psychology, then you learn all these things.
I think we got somebody here. Hi, is this Nicole? You were okay? Yeah. Yep. Hi, Nicole.
Finally worked. We got you on.
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear
us? Say
Nicole?
Something. Let us know you're alive.
Yeah, I just see a picture. I just see a picture, but I don't see or hear her.
Maybe her bandwidth is too
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if she can hear us because I can't hear her yet. I just see a picture.
Maybe I can message her and tell her to refresh it.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, but Poffo, people's view of God needs to change. I mean, because in my case, it's like I'm just an atheist, so that's enough for me. But one thing is for certain, they cannot continue believing in the Christian, Jewish, Muslim concept of God, because that God gave people permission to kill animals and eat them.
Let's say the people who wrote about that God were writing from his perspective, which was really their perspective, which is really with an archaic Bronze Age mentality. That's what's really going on there.
But to be correct. But the point is, the God they believe in, they believe in a God that commanded animal sacrifices and commanded to eat certain animals and not others. They literally believe God wants them to be a carnist. So instead, you're having to oppose all that by telling them, no, God wants you to be vegan. The universe needs you to be vegan.
Strangely, I've not really encountered too much of the whole it's okay to eat meat because God said so, blah blah blah. I haven't encountered too much of that, but I'm also living in Portland, Oregon, so
I know what
religious city there is.
Yeah, well, I know someone. I know a former vegan who quit veganism because God gave people permission to eat meat. So, yeah, I don't know, man.
He was vegan and then went.
Yeah, he was a vegan, but then he got ultra religious, and then he's
He
not
was
vegan.
He was vegan for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Are you there? Are you there, Nicole? Say something.
Yes, my internet connection. I had to change routers.
Yeah, that's better. Cool.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
It's great to actually hear you talk and see you.
Yes,
we've been friends for a long, long time, but we've never actually spoken and engaged face to face or whatever. As much as we can through the internet.
Yeah.
This is Chandler Klebs. I don't know if you've ever watched or listened to podcasts that we've done. My good friend Chandler, he's the co-host of the Philosophy, Science, and Religion podcast and the Impersonal Opinion podcast and a few others.
And we also established that I'm a unicorn trapped in a man's body.
He's the gayest non-homosexual I've ever met.
That was just awesome, Poffo.
Yeah, he's a kind of a computer tech nerd. He's not ashamed to say that he's mildly autistic. I don't think he's autistic. I think he's just really smart.
Well, to me, they're synonymous.
All right, there you go. So what I hear from Peter? Go ahead.
I'm not sure what you were discussing prior to my joining, but I did hear the tail end of your mentioning the sort of indoctrination that people are under. With regard to the latter portion of, like, I would say the Old Testament, where it kind of overwrote the initial precepts as specified in the book of Genesis. So there's always been a bit of debate about that, but I tend to look upon, rather than the words in that text, is more about your physiological form. And that, I would think, is far more the given as far as natural law and creation. If you're going to believe
biology. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, I would say, one good argument, at least that I've had in the face of that, is the idea of, false gods. When they talk about idolatry, I would say that idolatry is looking at the book as the principal truth rather than your own heart, because
like holding it up to this idolatry standard. Yeah.
Really study the truth. The main, I would say, crux of most of the Abrahamic religions, talking about the oneness of all that is, like, if you're going to look from a monotheistic perspective and acknowledge that all living beings that are a part of this planet are coming from the one, and you're kind of more aligned with your heart wisdom, and that's where they talk about the true kingdom is, right? It's in the kingdom of the heart. So that's kind of the fulcrum of where my position would be in answer to that.
Yeah, I would say that's
your heart wisdom
a new age
to you. When you see the horrors that happen to the animals, and you feel that feeling in your heart of just total disgust or dismay or sorrow or whatever that is, that's the kingdom speaking directly through your heart. That's where your connection is to the one, and that is kind of where we kind of need to.
I would say that is the divine speaking through us. It's a representation of our highest ideals. It's a reflection of our highest standards, of the things that make us human, really, of our own humanity.
And that's the living truth, right? You can look at some old archaic text from the tongue of people from thousands of years ago to dictate the truth, or you can listen to your heart wisdom, and which one I think has more merit,
And morality and ethics should be an emergent, living, evolving thing that like is not something that's set in stone. Like the Ten Commandments are literally written in stone, but it should actually be something that changes and shifts and becomes more and more, I would say, acutely aware of the interconnectedness of all things, and much more tolerant and accepting and in terms of cooperation with other life forms. Because originally, back in the day, nature was our enemy. Nature was against us. Like, we were continuously struggling for survival, and it was difficult to to have this kind of mentality, even though the Druids and the pagans, they did, Native Americans as well. But now it's like, since the advancements, the technologies that we have, our ability to manipulate our environments and stuff, nature is no longer our enemy. Like, we could coexist, and we could learn to live in a symbiotic way instead of constantly being fearful of it and fighting against it. So that ancient sort of programming is kind of still there, that there is that separation. And obviously Nicole is a pantheist, Chandler, and you can hear how she speaks, and she's made that same connection. I believe was it your pantheism that led to your veganism, or was it the other way around? I think you were just like me, right?
So I was involved in pantheism as soon as I found out about it. Basically, I was 19 when I was going to college, and I was studying philosophy, and I found the works of Spinoza to be far more resonant with the kinds of things that I was already thinking about. So I ended up becoming involved in the WPM, which is Paul Harrison's pantheist groups, in the Yahoo forums. This was long before even MySpace reigned supreme.
Yeah, way back when.
Right. So I was engaged in forums there, contemplating the nature of the one as I saw it in those the World Pantheist forums. Mm-hmm. And I had a moment of what you would call zazen type of where I transcended time, and I saw all that lives on the planet with a face as my own face throughout all time. Wow. It was
Chandler,
very
you talked about this. You had the same experience, right? Well, remember the ants?
I did that. I felt the collective suffering in the planet. I saw how everything was interconnected, and I immediately fasted and stopped eating. At the time, I had already just made the decision to not eat cows, but I was still and mammals, but I was still eating birds and fish and seafood. And after that, I stopped it all cold turkey, because I saw that I needed to help hold the balance for the planet.
It's fascinating.
And be of service. So
we need to have you. I need to have you. You're my next guest on Sacred Places, because I've been waiting for another pantheist to describe their pantheist experience, and now because we found this this homogeny with veganism, and the overlap and the interplay that's there, it's brilliant. It's perfect. You want to say something, Chandler?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, like this experience you had, because it's a little bit hard to understand, but like I told Poffo before, like I'm able to. I'm so deeply connected with everything, and I'm a determinist. I see that everything all affects each other. So it's impossible to see yourself as an individual and consider your own desires and weigh them against the welfare of everybody else, because you are them. We are the planet. We are the universe. We are the animals. It's like, so I just don't have the same mindset that most people do in regards to that.
Yeah, those barriers have been broken down with you, and I think you're also very empathetic. You're an empath. You feel the suffering and the pain of others. You're acutely aware when it comes to the suffering of other life forms, and that's actually essential. I believe it's essential. It's the essential component to veganism, and I believe if pantheism is ever going to get off the ground, that's what needs to be stressed. The focus on our compassion for other life forms.
And like here's an interesting thing. Like, okay, so the other day I saw a turtle. It was actually a fairly large turtle that had been run over. It was a dead turtle. It had been run over. Its shell was shattered to pieces. Yeah. And in that moment, I see that, and I want to throw up, and I get I get like this. I'm like, these damn cars. These cars should not exist. These humans driving these cars should not exist.
Turtles were here first.
No matter how much pleasure there is in the world, nothing justifies what happened to that turtle. And I just get so frustrated over something like that.
And I love turtles. I really have probably my favorite animal is a turtle. I've had many turtles throughout my life, and there's something about them because they're almost so innocent and lovable. Because they're slow moving and everything, and you want to protect them. And I've actually rescued turtles that have gotten chewed on by dogs and had their shells cracked and rehabilitated them and stuff. And I hate that. I hate seeing a squashed turtle on the highway. At least it was dead and it wasn't suffering. But I know what you mean. I mean, so you're you're acutely aware of violence and suffering, and it affects you in that way. But that's what makes you a good person. That's what makes you a good human being, because the sympathetic neurons are firing and you're putting yourself in their shoes, and there's a moral response. That's important, because you know what, Nicole, in Big Pan, you don't have a lot of talk about morality. You have a lot of talk about philosophy and the intellectual aspects and all of these theories and all of this stuff. And I don't even frequent the page anymore, because me and Perry are just like button heads all the time. I mean, he's threatened to kick me out so many times. And there's just not that that heart-centered knowledge like you were talking about, where it's coming from a place of real spiritual wisdom that has to do with literally seeing ourselves in the other and having love and compassion. Like, it makes absolutely no sense to care for and love a dog or a cat and still pay for someone to torture and mutilate a chicken, a cow, a sheep, a turkey, a fish. So
well, I think that's kind of the challenge of our time, and we are standing at the precipice, I believe, because I think a lot of our culture tends to be far more centered on intellect or the mental body, and it's all about creating all of these different classifications and analyzing and putting things in quaint little boxes. And the world is far more complex than that to life, than to just viewing the world from an anthropocentric position. And I believe a lot more people are starting to awaken beyond the constrained thought forms that humankind has kind of imposed upon our social conditioning. So it's really a matter of kind of creating that bridge, so to speak, where we can kind of help lead people outside of the box type of thinking, this or that kind of dualism. Like,
it's also about who's actually on Facebook. What? The dualism, you said?
Right. So, it's always like a black and white sort of thing. It's either this or that. And a lot of people will always, when you're talking about how to remedy a situation, there's only one solution, and everyone's arguing about which solution it is, when you're like, hey, it could be all solutions, I mean, like, sure. That's where the whole head is for me. I like that idea of antithesis and synthesis can, those can, they're not necessarily mutually exclusive. Although the truth of the philosophy of pantheism, could resonate with a lot of people, how do you bridge that ideation and into, how do you ground that into your now with your actions? Like, how do you live by that platform?
I created a post a while back. I created a post where it literally took you step by step on the progression of how pantheism leads to veganism, and I'll find it and I'll repost it, because I think it's really important. If you're in the Pantheist Vegan support group, then you'll be able to see that. But I also wanted to say that and the issue also is who's online, who's actually in these not chat rooms, but on these Facebook groups, on these pages, in these Facebook groups, discussing things. It might be just a lot of people who are not very active in their life, not very social, but this is their outlet for the intellect, Like, honestly, I don't have, my life was open. Let's just say that I had a lot of freedom and time to devote to all this. I imagine if I had many responsibilities, if I had a lot of obligations, I would not be able to write as much as I do. I would not be able to engage and interact with people like I do. So think about the people who are in those groups. They might be like shut-ins. They might be antisocial. They might have social anxiety. They might be people who are just maybe not necessarily ethical, but they're just trying to satisfy some need to pontificate and articulate their views. So they're not necessarily going to be the caring, compassionate, kind-hearted people who are actually trying to make a difference in the world. I'm sure we've all experienced this, like internet trolls, basically. So I think,
yeah, well, I mean, there's
what is it, like 14,000? How many people are on Perry's page? 14,000?
Engagement tends to always devolve. I've noticed that. I mean, I've been in forums for 3 decades now, and from my own experience, I could see how even the most intelligent and friendliest of people devolve into these chaotic messes of and misunderstanding. A lot of it has to do with the fact you can't even hear the inflection in a person's voice. You don't see any gesticulations or mannerisms of the body language that tell you what the main, gist of what you're trying to convey, can get totally misconstrued.
But we've got emoji cons. We've got emoji cons that we can put little smiley faces and we can make faces.
I mean, it's never going to suffice to something like this, which is more visual. We can share imagery. You can hear a person's inflection in their voice. You get to know somebody a little bit more on an intimate level. You can kind of about the person than what you could ever with text alone.
There's less.
Video can be more helpful in that way, and certainly people don't respond to certain types of information. Some are better, helped by, because they're auditory learners, a reading learner, or that they like to do things with their hands. So there's a lot of different ways to go about engaging with others, in this type of work.
Sure. And I want to take the opportunity, Nicole, before I forget or we go any further, to thank you for all the many times that you stepped in and supported me and backed me up in debates and conversations online. And you literally write novels. I said all this before you came in. You'll write like a whole friggin' novel, and it's all just excellent information. It's like top-notch stuff, and you could just see how erudite you are, and that you've studied assiduously, you've studied and you've learned, and it's all right there. And if you don't write books, I mean, you should, because you've definitely got a gift for writing. And I just wanted to thank you, because many times we've been involved in discussions and stuff like that, and I can always usually, if I can get a hold of you, I can always count on you to back me up on the most salient points.
Awesome. So I appreciate the positive feedback, because it's certainly a few far between. I sometimes feel like I'm speaking to crickets.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think that we don't very often enough give each other the positive feedback we need. Because we get a lot of negative feedback. If you post something on Facebook, or if you upload a YouTube video, you get nasty comments. You get all the hate, but you don't often hear the people who enjoyed it. They're either too scared to say something publicly, or they just haven't gotten around to it. So we need to do that. We need to reinforce it and say, hey, Poffo, I appreciated this post you did. Keep up the good work, man. Stuff like that.
I don't hear it enough, and I'll be first one to say I need to hear it, because it can be really discouraging. But you and I are, we figured that one out, Chandler, because we're always blowing smoke up each other's butt, right? But we're I'm always honest with you, and I always tell you how much I appreciate you and how much I respect you, and and you do the same. Yeah. So our podcasts have been very encouraging.
Yeah,
That's why I created the Pantheist Vegan Support Group. It's a support group. That's the idea. It's to support pantheists who are also vegans, and who are helping to try to show others, this indelible connection that's there, and really put the focus and the emphasis on where it should be, on biological life and living organisms.
So I wasn't sure how you actually gathered these people all together, and perhaps from your experiences engaging on Facebook, but it kind of crossed my mind how interesting it was that although you'd added us all there, none of us had really befriended one another. I reached out and requested a few of the friends, just because some of the engagements, it just seemed like, we had a lot in common. And one of the folks that has liked a few of my posts, but we're not really, engaging with one another on a personal level. But it just would seem like that's kind of a no-brainer that we should all just friends.
Most of them came from Biopan. Some came from Big Pan, and some came from just specifically vegan groups where I spoke to them about pantheism, and they said, "Oh yeah, that's what I believe anyway. I didn't know there was a name for it." You know how it goes. Like everyone is really a pantheist, they just don't know it yet. So I pulled them together from all these different. So I think I originally had 15, and then and it spread from there. And I was so happy just to find like that 10 or 15 that were both vegan and pantheist, and I thought it was like amazing. And I was hoping, actually my focus shifted. Obviously it shifted away from Big Pan into Biopan, and then it shifted away from Biopan into the vegan pantheist vegan support group. And now my focus has been on my AV Portland page, because that's the animal rights activist here locally, where I'm building a group here that we do street activism every weekend. So I'm trying to pull them together, and it's crazy because there's about 120 of them, and every weekend we struggle just to get maybe 4 or 5 people. But this weekend I've been plugging it and posting it everywhere. I've already got like 9 volunteers, so I think we're doing something right. Because in other countries, Anonymous for the Voiceless, you have like 15, 20, 30 people in a group, and they'll have cubes like the size. They'll have cubes that are like 15 people each, and it's amazing. Are you familiar with Anonymous for the Voiceless, Nicole?
I've been watching a lot of the videos you've been sharing, and I befriended Danny as well. I mean, I think the work's inspiring, but it's not resonant with me as far as my level of activism. I feel more like my partner's the same way, is just showing people how easy it is to make food. I think a lot of people just don't realize how simple it can be. Sure. So I just recently posted a video, just like, here's how to make almond milk, in 2 minutes. Yeah. And people are like,
there's no form of activism. There's no form of activism that's wrong. It all depends on what your skill set is, what you're compelled, what direction you're compelled to move in, what you're good at,
right.
What your talents and abilities are. So,
yeah. And isn't talking about the more violent aspects of it, because I find it rather anathema to my being, and any decent person would have a hard time watching any of that either. But like, if I just share photos, here's my raw vegan dessert, here's my raw vegan milk, here's how to make these meals, and I just keep sharing the food, people are gonna go, gosh, that looks great.
Yeah, no, that's 100%. That's valuable and necessary and needed. I mean, not everybody can look at the shit that I look at or tolerate it, but I have a really high tolerance for that stuff.
In Portland with you guys, like, maybe I would have a table and just have like my raw vegan cheesecakes and my raw vegan.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I mean, because I do overlap.
Holy, that tiramisu tastes just the same, if not better.
we do overlap. So I'm involved with DXE as well, Direction Action Everywhere, and we're gonna have like a group meditation next month, where we're all gonna like do like a mantra and stuff, and it's gonna be very, very spiritual and to draw attention to our cause. I'll send you the link to that. I mean, even though you can't go, but just so you see it. But there are many avenues, and it all depends on where you feel most comfortable. For me, AV is just the most. To me, it's just so direct and efficient, because you're literally showing the footage. And you're not shoving it down people's throats. You're waiting for them to walk up and start watching it, and they have to be watching it for at least a minute or two before we can engage with them. And then you don't even have to engage. You can just hold the media, the laptop or the tablet, and you wear the mask, the Guy Fawkes mask, and you don't have to speak. You don't have to do anything. You're just literally showing them the truth. That's why we hold signs that says truth, showing them the truth, and then the outreachers will come and speak to them. And talk to them, like, have you ever considered this? What do you think about this footage? Most people say they're against animal cruelty. Are you against animal cruelty? And if so, then why would you pay for this and support it? And so we, certain people talk to them, other people just hold the laptops, and it works on both ends, because when you're doing Cube, you can see right through people. You see right to their souls, man. You see all their bullshit pretenses, and you're wearing the mask, so you're safe. You're like covered, and they don't see you, and it's very impersonal. But you're literally affecting them, and then you can listen to all of their all of their bullshit excuses and justifications and rationalizations, and you can learn all those so that you learn how to come up with rebuttals and ways to combat that kind of misinformation and the ignorance. And then when you listen to other outreachers, you learn how to communicate better and how to do it effectively. And we try to promote the Socratic method by asking questions, instead of trying to just directly tell them something. We ask them questions, and we try to kind of gauge where they're at and just to help sort of stimulate critical thinking. So I think it's a very effective method, and it's cool. It's very cool to me because we're wearing all black. We're like an art piece, we're wearing all black.
Yeah, say that. It kind of makes you think of like a museum installation, right? It's like an interactive museum.
It is.
And it's somewhat of a social experiment too, because it's kind of like a social experiment in the sense of just seeing it from a psychological perspective. And
it's an art form. It's an art form, and I love the aesthetic because I was an actor for 10, 15 years in haunted houses, and I'm used to getting dressed up, and I'm used to wearing masks. So it was like I have no problem whatsoever just standing there with a mask on. I feel very comfortable in masks. But I also, obviously, I'm a talker, so they usually want me to do outreach because I talk so much, and I have no problems with confrontation, and I don't mind at all people dealing with people, dealing with the general public. I'm actually probably I excel at that, even though I don't like dealing with the general public. I really don't like talking to people. I'd much rather just be alone in the woods somewhere, just writing or hanging out with animals. But but I'm doing what I can because I've got these gifts, so I'm trying to use those gifts. And like Chandler does what he does, because he's got the gift of he understands tech stuff, and he's great with doing videos, and he's an excellent moderator. He was originally supposed to have Peter on, and we were going to have this this debate of the century where it was me and Peter.
Yeah, I'm going to have to change the title.
I'm involved in that too. I mean, if you can just write me in, I'd need to know the schedule because, I have a lot going on this summer. I'm pretty much offline for the first half of July and August.
I think Peter might be more receptive to a woman, actually. I think he might be more receptive to a woman and someone he doesn't really maybe know so well. Have you ever met? I know you met Perry.
Not personally, but we've been in connection online for many years, and so he and I are familiar with one another virtually.
If he trusts you, then that's a good thing. If he trusts you, I think it might even work better because he won't feel as threatened. Because Chandler, we've done this before, and I think he kind of feels Chandler might hold a bias. There's like a conflict of interest here because Chandler is 100% vegan and he supports veganism. Even though you're vegan, you might represent less of a threat to him, and he won't feel like he's being ganged up on. But all I want to do is get his perspective and try to understand it. And I want to give him a platform to speak and explain to me what the fuck skosh means if you're still contributing to the abuse and exploitation of animals, because skosh stands for
sustainable, compassionate, organic,
safe
and healthy.
Yep,
yeah,
that's it. So I'm like, that's veganism. The only thing that is sustainable, compassionate, organic, healthy and safe is veganism. That's the only thing that is. So what you created is brilliant. It's beautiful. But how can you be against veganism if this is what you believe?
Yeah.
But he says,
I don't necessarily against it per se. I just don't think that he's reached the level that we have yet, And I remember what I was like when I still had dairy, but I didn't eat animals.
Yeah, well,
Nicole, he's against the movement. Actually against it.
He said he has said that he's against the vegan movement. He
thinks that it's an extremist form of that promotes sanctimoniousness and moral superiority, and it creates it's divisive. It creates division and too much distinction, where he wants to just sort of have a unity and have people from all walks of life. Doesn't matter what you eat, doesn't matter what you believe, right. But you can embrace biosophy, you can embrace biotheism, and still hang on to your traditions. And there's another point. He's very nostalgic, and he has this kind of romanticized idea of the past, and of human culture, which I don't have. I'm like, fuck culture, fuck the past, fuck religion if it's causing harm. If it's causing harm, if it's creating devastation on the earth, if it's screwing people up psychologically, I don't care where it comes from or what it is, it's not healthy. Unless something is life affirming and promotes moral decent behavior and love and respect for life, then it's, I don't care what sacred cow you have, I'll do away with it. To me, it's all about our biology. It's all about what you said is, and to me it's all about pantheism, which is basically that nature is sacred, nature is divine, so we should treat all life with reverence. And anything that is outside of that, to me, is counterproductive and counterintuitive.
I think that's where the dialogue can go, rather than talking about what makes a person different, right? You're talking about emphasizing difference and creating conflict. What are those unifying principles? Where is the place that would be truly unity-based consciousness, where everyone is on a biopan side, where there would be true consensus, where everyone would really, there is no argument that could be had.
It comes down to how we view life, and I mean,
and what
life.
Is reverence?
What
is reverence? Is reverence just
reverence
prayer, or is it embodying? And
I've said it many times. It's love and respect. It's consideration. It's compassion, not worship. I've never promoted worship of anything. I've promoted balance, homeostasis, equilibrium, and a healthy reverence for our own bodies, a reverence for the environment, reverence for life.
So I think
the problem is we don't all view
the bridge, right? That can be the bridge with someone like Peter, because then that becomes the fulcrum of our conversation is, okay, then, what are the best possible ways that we can do reverence? And this isn't in a sanctimonious distortion here. We're talking truly about our path toward the most, true accordance with reverence for life. And how does that manifest itself?
It's very simple. If it's unnecessary to slaughter and mutilate animals, then why do it? If it's unnecessary for us, then why do it? It's unnecessary. Yeah. And you're the one that taught me, Nicole, that our physiology really defines this. Like I could honestly say that my trajectory into veganism began when you posted that image comparing the teeth, the dental, and the body physiology, the digestive system, and all these different things of a carnivore, omnivore, herbivore, frugivore. Yeah, it clicked in my mind, and I said, this is the most accurate path to take. Like in biopantheism, this makes sense. Like we are biologically frugivores, so why would I do otherwise, especially when I know what it's contributing to and there's no need for it.
Yeah.
So you want to say something, Chandler? Sorry.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's so many things I'd like to say. I mean, I really think this is very simple, because if we wouldn't want it done to us, why would we do it to someone else? I mean, that's the whole basis of veganism for me.
Well, that's the golden rule.
Yeah, the golden rule. It's a very simple concept. It's in all the religions. It's so simple a child could understand. I understood when I was a kid, but I didn't know what was going on back then. But now I just applied that to everything, and of course that leads to veganism. We don't need we don't need fancy acronyms like Peter's trying to have anyway.
Well, Peter, you gotta understand something. Peter literally has created a meta-religion, a philosophy that is based on pantheism, that has taken it to the next level. It's like pantheism 2.0. And he spent years on this, like creating new language, creating new terms, really, really thinking this through. And I have always supported it. I've always supported him 100% in this. It's just we diverged. Originally, I created biopantheism. Let's see if I can remember this. I created biopantheism because it originally was either biological pantheism or biotheistic pantheism. That's what it was. I think my original title for the page was biotheistic pantheism, because I still embraced pantheism coming from reading Paul Harrison's book, learning about pantheism online, learning about the you know, the luminaries on Perry's wall. And I thought pantheism was the greatest thing in the world. And I thought it was what it was. My vision for pantheism was what biopan is now. Okay. But what I didn't realize was everybody has their own interpretation of pantheism. So anyway, when I saw what Peter was doing, I said, this is it. Biological life. That should be the crux. That's the focal point. That's the most important thing. That's all that matters. And I embraced it, and I supported 100% his OPBT. I embraced it 100%. Organismic philosophy and biotheism. I embraced it. But Peter's personality and his micromanaging of me and our personal, when we would meet together, and you know, he was just let's just say we butt heads on a lot of issues when it came to drugs, when it came to you know, use of entheogens, like all these different things, and so we split eventually. I mean, we almost killed each other because we almost got into fist fights at times because it was so heated and so passionate. But we would literally talk till we would talk all night long, talk till 4 or 5 in the morning, and our passion and intensity is like matched. You know, he's like, I don't know how to explain it. Like we're like the supervillain and the superhero. That's what we are. I don't know who the villain is yet, though. You know, if he's Dr. X and I'm Magneto, maybe I'm Magneto. He's Professor X.
Hey, Poffo, listen. Okay, you and Peter are like Goku and Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z.
I don't know that shit. I don't know Pokemon.
No, this is Dragon Ball Z. It's a Japanese anime. Oh. But seriously, man, you could probably just read a Wikipedia page on Goku and Vegeta, or see a few short clips on YouTube. They are like vicious enemies near the beginning of the series, but they end up later becoming allies and even almost friends, even though they are still weird to each other, because they will fight together to save the planet, even though they're rivals and they're always mad at each other.
Peter is the only person I know who might be smarter than me. He might be smarter than me, except he's not smarter than me when it comes to veganism. But he's the only person I know who can still teach me words, who I learn words from, and vocabulary. Like literally, we are just matched in terms of passion and intensity and drive, you know. And it's like, okay, so that actually worked against us. We couldn't work together because he's so controlling about his philosophy that all I ever did was promote it. All I ever did was lead people to biotheism, and it was never good enough for him. It was always wrong. I was always misrepresenting. So after a while, it got so ugly and it got so messed up after a while. It was like a dysfunctional relationship, really. It was like we were lovers. You know, the only way I could describe it is as if we were romantically entangled and had the most horrible breakup. So when we split, I said, I'm not going to stop this. I believe in this. I'm going to create my own distilling of pantheism, and hence Biopan came about. And I pulled from Big Pan all the most significant people that I felt were the most highly educated, just, you know, like 100%, like, you know, I just knew that we were of like-minded mentality. And Nicole was one of those people. And I created my page and I evolved my page, and then he kept trying to get back involved, and he kept trying to push his stuff into my group. And I said, just create your own group, dude. I was like, why don't you have a Facebook page? Just make your own page. What's so hard about that? Like I'm doing my thing now. I'm trying to separate myself from you so I don't misrepresent you. I'm coming up with my own terminology, you know. I'm trying to distance myself so that we don't kill each other, and I still support what you do. Let me do what I'm going to do. And that's when he created Biosophy. Anyway, long story short, we're still friends, but we're still bitter enemies now because of the vegan issue.
Yeah, well, you know, Poffo, I forgot how I met you originally. It's been so long, but I remember a long time ago when I think, like, you listened to the intentional evolution and biotheism, the one I did with George that time.
Yeah.
And then you told me about. I remember you telling me about Peter back then, that you had this friend who had used the same word, the biotheism, as part of his thing at one time. Yeah. And yet you were having some kind of problems. But now it's been at least a year that I've known you, and we had I've seen, I've talked to Peter just a few times, and now I see what's going on. I see what it's like with you guys. He says things about you that just aren't true, that you're like some sanctimonious person who just wants people to act like you're great, and that's not it. It's like,
not about me. It's not about me. It's about the philosophy. It's about the animals. It's literally about preserving the earth. It's about uniting people and really instituting a biocentric meta-religion, exactly what he calls it, his meta-religion that will unite humanity under one banner, where the overarching theme is that nature is divine, is love and respect for life. No, it's not about me. I'll put my face out there in posts sometimes to grab people's attention, because people tend to react to that for some reason, more so than like a pretty picture or something. When you have your personal identity, I don't mind being like the mascot for it, but I always point people to the philosophy. It's always about the doctrine itself. And in terms of veganism, it has nothing to do with me. I'm just literally trying to share information about how unnecessary it is to kill and murder and slaughter animals, and how horrific factory farms are, and what it's doing to the environment, what it's doing to our bodies. It's all about, to me, it's just about sharing information. It has nothing to do with ego.
Nicole, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I think a lot of the time exchanges tend to get the huge distraction, which tends to be where it starts getting personal. And everyone starts making things personal rather than talking about the subject matter at hand. And that's a logical fallacy. They talk about the ad hominem attacks.
Yeah.
So really it's like a matter of, well, how do you just kind of bring it back to the discussion, just kind of re-guide people off of that distraction.
Are we still talking about Peter, or we're talking about just in general online? Because,
well, I think that can apply to both.
I want to say that Peter is extremely sensitive. He's an extremely sensitive guy, and he literally takes everything personal. Like his philosophy is so deeply entrenched and intertwined with it that saying anything about biotheism, about biosophy, is a direct insult and attack to him. He takes all of it personally. Like, I can't engage with him and have him separate the two. I'm going to be the first one to say,
so
I incorporated veganism
between the ideology and the person. You're saying like
there's no separation there.
I have a different viewpoint, and perhaps could be potentially a good mediating force between the personality clashes that you two have. I mean, that's why I produced the Pantheist spirituality page. Because I'm more resident on the same level as Peter, as you're saying, with the meta idea of unity-based consciousness and unity and diversity, and allowing for all the different factions or thought formings. Like what's the unity ideas? So I find it kind of hard to find and see, because I'm also involved in the Theosophical Society. And, one of their main tenets is to create, a cohesive brotherhood of man, right? So, under that same sort of premise, what are those unitive factors that you can evoke in people?
I understand it, and I understand it completely, and I think there's a place for that. My take was to create something entirely new and distinct, because I don't support omniism. I don't support perennial philosophy. I don't support the religious pluralism or the syncretism that Peter actually represents, and trying to find it's religious syncretism. I don't believe in that, because I think all religions oppose each other.
Doors for people to get out of their boxes, right? You have to create those doors.
Doors?
Yeah, because people are in their boxes, right? They don't even have windows, right? So some people can build windows, but we're trying to get the door so we can open that door for them and they can get out of the box.
Yeah, I think there's a need. I think there's a need for like what J. Pierre was doing for the longest time, and I've had incredible debates and butt heads with him as well on a lot of different issues. But the people I greatly respect the most, Peter and Jay, I'm always at odds with, because I'm literally trying to create something new, and let the people who have come out of religion come out of the dogmatic, oppressive Abrahamic faiths, and who are seeking truth. The pantheists, the agnostics, the atheists, maybe the secular humanists, the Wiccans, the Druids, the pagans, the neo-pagans, who represent the earth-centered, the life cycles of nature, and their focus and emphasis is on the natural world. I want to bring them into it, and do away with the literalism, the belief in gods and goddesses, belief in a supernatural world, getting away from superstition and supernaturalism, and highlighting the miraculous nature of reality itself, of the real world. So I've always said that that's my audience. My audience is not the religious. I don't care about the religious. I've suffered enough in my life because of religious indoctrination, because of religious people, because of what Christianity represents in the South, where I grew up in Virginia
I don't
Beach.
necessarily believe it's the religion per se, as it is about ignorance and people who are engaged in sloth, right? Intellectual sloth, because they haven't been true seekers themselves, and they're only believing what they're told, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
your dogmatism.
My issues are with the religious texts themselves, the religious documents themselves. It's inherent in there that murder and slavery and homophobia and misogyny and racism and sexism and abuse.
Yeah, I'm with you
animals.
on all of that, Poffo, but I don't think
this
that
is in the Tanakh. It's in the
necessarily
Bible.
syncretism, because I think syncretism is, in the sense, finding the only parts that are in there that are worthy of our consideration.
Sure.
Right?
Well, then, hold on. I agree, but then why not just throw away the rest?
To find the little gold nugget, right? I mean, it's kind of like a needle in a haystack, really, to find anything.
No, it's in there. I love the book of Ecclesiastes. I love the Psalms. I love Proverbs. But the point is, it's that it's held up to this idolatrous standard, and the Bibles, the religious texts themselves, and that's the problem, is because you get all the shit with the good stuff, you're getting all the garbage too. And as long as people are lazy, like you said, and they're slothful, they're not going to do the research. They're not going to. I think the gospel is one of the most beautiful metaphorical. What's the word? It is a personified version of this ideal that existed at the time, of the Messiah, of Christ, what he represented. And if it's read and it's understood metaphorically and symbolically, it's beautiful. It reflects the life cycles of nature. It has all these great elements to it. But when it's read literally, like most people do, like fundamentalists and like 95% of Christians do, it becomes damaging. That's the problem. Chandler and I are both ex-Christians. Mm-hmm. Depending on our background, I'm not sure if you had the same evangelical background that we had, so your approach might be different. Just like Jay's and just like Peter's, you may have not been indoctrinated like we were, so you don't have that aversion to it. You don't see the damage that it's caused, so you're more accepting and tolerant. But I also believe there is a place for people like you, Nicole, to help people who are more forward-thinking and progressive to sort of reinterpret and get away from those oppressive religious systems, the traditional, conventional religious belief systems, and move towards something that's more
comparative. My mom's agnostic, and I never went to church except for the different children that I was friends with during grade school.
Lucky
so
you.
I was exposed to many
Your dad? I didn't hear you.
So I had a friend who was Jehovah's Witness. I went to the Jehovah's Witness thing. I had a friend who was Catholic. I went to their Bible study.
There you go. That's the pluralism.
I went to the Krishna. Yeah. So I was learning comparative study basically in my formative years. And
I did that through reading and research and through the same experiences you had. But what did you say your dad was? I didn't catch that.
Well, my stepdad, strangely enough, his family comes from the full-on Mormon, like Herbert C. Kimball is like the main Mormonism, but he wasn't Mormon himself. But his family has that in their background.
What would you say his stance was, his spiritual belief or lack thereof? What
they were both agnostic. But my mom was even reading the book of The Dark Side of Christianity, and I grew up, in high school. I was a huge Slayer fan, so I even had an English teacher that failed me from the class because she was Christian, and she fully, I knew what discrimination was from that experience.
Right.
I just thought I was a Satanist, and she flunked me on purpose.
You're the devil. You're the devil's whore because you're listening to metal music.
Well,
Exorcise the demons.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I gotta say something at this point. Okay, now, so Nicole was the lucky one because she just got to window shop her friends and witness, going to church with them. You're the lucky one,
Got
Nicole.
Pentecostals and Episcopalians, and in the name of
Yeah,
Jesus, slap on the forehead and falling down with the purple blankets, and yeah,
yeah, you got
Pentecostal, Pentecostal.
yeah. See, but here's the deal: the reason I say you're the lucky one, Nicole, is because you were not indoctrinated with a system that makes you be ignorant, because they are literally told that they have to have faith and believe what this text says, or they're going to burn in a fire called hell forever. So that's why people are ignorant, because they're scared with fear from the time they're a tiny child.
And stifles human creativity. It stifles education and knowledge.
Things in Bible study. I was there for that one day, and the lady was like telling you, what you needed to believe, and I was like, but why? And I asked,
don't ask questions. Questions are bad. Questions are the devil.
yeah, because it tells you, like there was never, like even then when I was, like this is first grade, she wasn't speaking to my intelligence. She was speaking down to me to just be a compliant, obedient to authority type of thing. And I've always had
that is it.
I question authority. It's ingrained in my being. I am anti-authoritarian, like through and through. So
me too.
Good for you, Nicole.
Thankful that you are.
So you do know, Nicole, that's what this religion tends to be about. Because all I knew was Protestant Christianity, and it's you have to believe what's in the Bible, or you're going to be punished, or you're not a true Christian. And so that's what it is. It's using fear to make people believe something. So asking questions is a big no-no. It can't be about evidence. It can't be about philosophy or anything.
It can't be about using your brain. It's just about following and having faith. But they'll swear up and down that there's no.
But it's still, it's not infallible, because a lot of it tends to be spun in a distortion based off of whichever preacher's, worldview it is.
Yeah.
So, distortion upon distortion upon distortion.
That's all religion is.
Exactly. Well, and the very fact that you've got all these different sects of Christianity, they can't agree on things. They disagree on whether homosexuality is an abomination or not. They disagree on abortion. They even disagree on vegetarianism and veganism. You have some Christians
if you look in the UK, they're bombing each other, right? And in Ireland, the Catholics versus the Protestants, right? They're
There's always going to be war and violence when people think that they have a religious mandate to do it, or that they've been selected and approved by God to.
I will always
to carry out his orders.
Christianity per se, it's ignorance, because the same can be said of Muhammad and his teachings with the Quran, and that's what everyone's freaking out about now. The new boogeyman instead of communism is now Islam.
Yeah.
Let's Chandler, was there more you wanted to say? Because I know we.
And see, I was just leading to a point. The point is, people's brains are shut off by these religions they're indoctrinated, whether that be Christianity or Islam or whatever else that teaches them to believe because somebody told you, rather than look at the evidence and reason things out and use your brain. And I think in a world without religion, there would be a lot more vegans, because they would not be in this mindset where they have to stay ignorant. I think this ignorance is like the worst thing ever.
We need to teach and promote science and biology, physics, cosmology, the arts, the sciences, like literally just educate people, man. We need a new enlightenment, a new renaissance. But what was I gonna say? Do we want to have a specific focus, because we're all across the board here?
Yeah, we're all over the place. And Poffo, I need to eventually, once this is done, I need to change the title of this, because I titled it Poffo and Peter debate, but Peter never showed up. So
I don't know what. I have no inkling of an idea of what you can call this, because we got veganism, the Battle of the Biopans.
Well, what I would recommend in the future is to create a talking points, like an agenda list, just like you're having a formal conference or meeting.
Well,
because
Chandler likes it to be organic. I would prefer that method, but Chandler likes it to be organic.
Guideline, if you have talking point guideline, then it certainly, you're more thorough in covering each subject matter if you have some guideline.
There you go. Right. So that's some good advice, Chandler. There you go.
Yeah. Well, see, here's the deal. These things tend to be spur of the moment, depending on my availability or not, which is hard to know because it depends on, well, what does my mom need me for that day, even if it's my day off, and then my work schedule changes. I'm usually not even up at this time because I usually work on Thursday mornings. So sometimes it's sporadic, but I'm sure that Poffo sometime could set up a hangout and have you on, just to have it all planned out and scheduled and prepared much more than this was.
Yeah, Nicole, if I were to have you on Sacred Places on my show, what would your angle be? What's the most significant? Because originally the idea of my show, when I branched off from, I don't want to say I broke away because me and Chandler are still doing shows together, but his show sort of motivated and inspired me to create my show. But the original focus, or the intention behind my show, was to have pantheists on to describe the experience of pantheism and how they commune with nature and what pantheism means to them, as a way, again, to popularize pantheism and get it out there in the ether and help people become educated that this is a significant thing. That was originally my intention, and so I've had maybe 4 or 5 shows. And they've had specific subjects. If I were to have you on, what would be the most important topic of priority that you would bring to the table? Would you just want to describe your experience of what pantheism means to you, or is there a specific subject that you'd like to speak about?
Well, that's pretty open-ended. I mean, certainly I'm well-versed in many subject matter, and I'm more fluid in that way. I'm not as rigid and fixed. So I guess it's really dependent upon what thematic focus you're wanting to delve within that we can explore. But I'm certainly open to many different types of things. I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with how well steeped I am in the esoteric side, but I'm definitely more.
Really. I never knew you were in the theosophy.
I'm a mystic and metaphysician. So
that's the first time I heard that, actually.
It runs rather counter to pantheist movements with Paul Harrison, for example, because they are so focused on scientific pantheism. Yeah. Where I also find that science is not the be-all, end-all idol worship for me either. It is also not infallible. I mean, I've seen how it can get distorted by who's investing the money, and they'll work the data to.
Always subject to the financial incentives. Yeah. Let me just say that Paul Harrison.
The main motto of theosophy is there is no religion higher than the truth, and I will always love that quote because the truth is what we should hold as in highest regard.
Let me just make a comment about. Remember that Paul Harrison invented scientific pantheism. It was originally naturalistic pantheism. Scientific pantheism was his own codification, or his form of it, which was strictly anti-supernaturalism and just wanted to focus on literally an alternative to religion with an emphasis on environmental ethics, which I think is a beautiful thing, and he really did a good job of defining and refining it, and with his book and everything. That was my first exposure to pantheism, but I always knew, I said, I think there's got to be more to it, though. There's got to be something else, because I'm a huge proponent of that we should investigate paranormal activities, like the movie, but paranormal events, and really delve into all of the unexplained phenomenon that take place on this planet, and he's completely against that. I also really made it a point to create a comprehensive and complete ontological model of our origins, of the future, of where we're headed, of what life is, of what God is. And I was much more specific about it, where he is not really a philosopher. It's very for him, literally, scientific pantheism, the world pantheist movement, is really just let's say it's environmentalism for atheists. They're
Yeah,
just
I saw
atheists.
the end
Yeah.
goal absolutely was he wanted to bring atheism into the fold so that they could have a place with him too. And I understand it and I honor that, but I felt very much excluded when it shifted from the naturalist pantheist to the scientific pantheist.
Yeah.
Because of the hostile nature. Because ironically, while in the
no
World
God
Pantheist
language.
Forum is
Yeah,
when we had that transcendental experience, which led to very supernatural and unexplainable types of occurrences in my own life.
See, I would like to hear about that.
Back
We should talk about that.
The truth in some of these ancient texts, as well
Right.
as why I got more involved with the Theosophical Society, because the experience was with an ascended master that helped that. So
I used to say it like this. I used to say the UPS, the Universal Pantheist Society, was too open-ended, not specific enough. The WPM, the World Pantheist Movement, was too restricting and too strict, and Biopan is right in the middle. Like biopantheism represents, an activist stance on it, so that this isn't just some philosophical notion that we don't do anything with, but we take action, and it includes ethics and morality. And
so I found you through Perry's group, because Perry was more welcoming than Paul's group,
and that's just a gigantic melting pot.
Because obviously, you have a similar level of passion that I do. I just don't have as much time to write as you had, and I could appreciate what you were saying, because it's always hard to find people that have that modicum of intellect and really thinking about things in these online forums. It tends to be people just write a couple of sentences and they're,
yeah. I have no problems writing. I have to stop myself. So I have to kind of hem myself in, but because I'll spend all day, on stuff like that. But Perry's group represents this gigantic melting pot of all kinds of pantheists, not pantheists, atheists, every kind of everything, and they're all there. And there are a lot of extremely intelligent people there, and there's a lot of garbage there. There's a lot of really, closed-minded idiots, and a lot of really flaky people who are out of touch with reality. So it's everything. Like it really is all, because it represents it. For me, it never had enough of a focus and a specific direction that I wanted, where I wanted to really see pantheism take center stage in our world, and I couldn't see that happening, because it's just literally like a train station where everybody coming and going and saying whatever they want. There's no moderation. He hardly ever moderated, unless it was against me, unless it was to shut me down on something I'm doing.
I think that's where the problem lies, is like people getting adversarial, because if he has the money to invest to get 300,000 fans, I mean, why should you have to start from square one? So it's like, it'd be far better if we can work together at finding, some unitive factors that could kind of, where you're cross-pollinating with one another, right? Like I shared your thing on my Pantheist spirituality page. I may end up sharing Peter's, and then I may also then end up sharing Perry's. So
I always draw people from his group. I used to use his group as kind of like a fishing, like to pull people out, people who were really, I could tell that they were just driven and motivated and really interested, and they had a lot of questions in their minds.
They're like the outer sanctum, and you're bringing them into the inner sanctum.
Yeah, because I don't think that page represents anything. It's too wide open. It's too nebulous. And what was I going to say? There's something else. I lost my train of thought. There was something else just about Perry and his lack of involvement. Except when it came to, he would have to have like 50 people messaging him about something was going on for him to actually take action and do something. I never felt like he was involved enough. So, and I was running that page. Not a lot of people know this, but I was the one that was moderating and literally doing all the administrative work on that page, and he did nothing. And it was overwhelming for me. I just couldn't take it. So I eventually broke away, and I pulled what I thought were the strongest members, the most erudite and intelligent and significant minds in that group. I was gonna say that just I'm thankful for Perry. I'm thankful for Perry in terms of what he tried to create. Oh, this is what I wanted to say. I was one of the original pillars of pantheism in Los Angeles. It was me, Perry, Peter, Charles, and possibly you. I think you met with Perry once, but the original Paradise Project was going to be like led by us. Like we were like the pillars of pantheism. We'll all start with P too. Peter, Perry, Poffo, pillars of pantheism. Isn't that weird?
That's
and then Charles, but I don't know how Charles really fit in there. But he did all the web design.
Hey, Poffo, you know, I can join you and just call me Pony since we need a P name.
Pony Pansies, the personification of perfection. So my point was, I was working in really close cohesion with Perry originally until I realized he wasn't going anywhere with it. That like literally the center, the Enlightenment Center, that was this great big thing. He had the party, and there was this. Me and Peter were really inspired, and we thought that this was going to be the beginning of a real community, and it just never went anywhere. And then he spent like another 2 years just working on the website, which I really appreciate the website, pantheism.com. But again, Perry is privileged, and he doesn't have the same sense of urgency and drive and the push that me and Peter have. Where me and Peter are much more passionate, and we
could complement one another rather than clash. I mean, I don't know. Maybe
that's what Peter always says. That's what Peter always says.
This feminine influence there, that kind of that feminine influence maybe is important in that way of trying to like.
Oh, we definitely should have some women involved, yeah. But
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're in Northern California, right?
Right.
Yeah, and you don't really get down to Venice that often, and then Peter's up in Santa Clarita, and now I'm in Portland. There's another P.
There's another P word. Yeah, Poffo. It seems that women are kind of rare. Like when it comes to podcasts, it's another P word. Okay,
we're gonna keep thinking like it's gonna like be stuck in our heads now.
Okay, so the people, that's P, who do the podcasts, like in my experience, they're all a bunch of dudes. They're all a bunch of philosophical, cerebral dudes. There's hardly ever any women. Now there was this one woman. Who was named Felicia on some of our older Free Will Science Religion episodes. She joined us, but then she got upset with George about politics or something like that. Oh, it's another P word.
George.
Yes, politics is another P word. So yeah, she got upset with George about politics because how he gets about politics, and so then she refused to ever do shows with us again, and not for us to not contact her, and that was really tragic. And now Monique is pissed off at everyone. Okay, now that's another P word, pissed. Yeah, yeah. She does. Yeah. So
Monique is sensitive, and you and her had a very close bond. So there's always going to be that. Tension there.
Exactly. So she doesn't get along with those guys. So I just do shows with her, just her and I, for the most part anymore. Yeah. But it's so rare to get these women when you're talking about, science or philosophy or religion or any important movement like veganism. I found that most of the people are men. Once in a while, we squeeze in a woman here. Usually it's somebody Poffo.
I've got some really intelligent, passionate women in my activist group now, and in some of my page groups. Except they're just not available. They have other obligations and responsibilities. They're not always available. So I mean, they exist. They're out there. Nicole's one of them. But it's all about the availability and getting people on the same page.
That's true, and I'm usually not either. And I kind of actually have to go now. I got to make dinner and stuff. But I do appreciate you inviting.
Great.
I know more in advance of certain schedules. I can make things happen. So keep the lines of communication open, and
let's talk some more, and give me some ideas of what you'd like to talk about if I have you on Sacred Places. And I'll definitely give you more of a heads up. But this was a kind of a spontaneous thing because we were trying to get Peter on, and I was looking for a moderator, and then I just kind of threw it out there, like anybody that wants to talk, because it's always interesting. I'm always trying to introduce Chandler to more pantheists because he hasn't really had much experience with it, and he's an atheist, and so we've actually devoted like a whole show, 2 shows actually, with 2 parts to what is the significance, what is the difference between pantheism and atheism. So I'm always trying to bring more pantheists into the circle in our groups.
Okay. Well, I'd recommend in that support group. Is Chandler in the support group?
Yeah.
You are, right?
Yeah. Because
I would suggest inviting everyone to befriend one another. You know, like I was mentioning earlier, rather than just being group members.
Yeah, I'm totally down with that. It's just that with Biopan, you know, I have my screening process because I want it to be specific. I don't want any dissension or you know, constant debates or questioning. It's more about that's the congregation of people who really embrace it and are thinking the same. And with the Pantheist Vegan Support Group, that's support for vegans who are also pantheists who are struggling, you know, and to help them into encouragement.
If we were all friends, because like I just had a guy just start railing on me when I posted about almonds being better as almond milk. You know, like if you guys were all my friends, you would have seen it and you would have just already weighed in without me having to go help.
Wait. We're friends. No, we're friends though. I mean, we're already friends.
Yeah, you mean? And I are. I'm just saying that everyone in the group that you added there, we're not all friends with one another. That's what.
Okay, you know, I'm like, okay, so create a post and say, could everybody add everybody else in this group? Yeah.
As friends.
Yeah, that's what you mean. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I'll create a post about that. Definitely.
Okay, sure. Awesome. Well, I've got to bid the adieu. Thanks for the invite. Now,
thank you. Yeah, it's been great. Good talking to you. I appreciate it. Have a good night. Be safe.
Thanks. You too. Okay, bye.
Yeah, well, it was nice meeting her. Yeah, I look forward to hearing you and her do some sacred places. And the thing is, that's great about that is you'll be able to do that even if I'm not available. You know, you'll be able to do the hangouts and stuff. And then
but you still have to you have to still do the editing for me and upload it because my stupid my computer I can't do I can't do the YouTube event if it's over 3 hours or something. I can't edit or I can't upload it. I don't remember problems, but you're my tech guy.
Yeah, I usually handle that because, you know, I already have it set up from previous times where, you know, we record the hangout and then I put it in the sandwich, I call it. You know, there's the intro and the outro audio clip.
The intro and
Yeah, so that I just smash it in that sandwich there and then it works.
Chandler, 1 sec, I go to the bathroom and give me a second.
Yeah. I gotta use the restroom too while he's doing that.
Yeah, I had to go that whole time, but the conversation was so good. I didn't want to break away. And now Chandler's gone. Yeah, I was saying that I had to go for a while, but I didn't want to break away because it was a good conversation.
Oh yeah, I know, and technically, we're still being recorded. It's still a broadcast, but people just gotta understand. Yeah, we're biological animals. We have to use the restroom. You know?
Just keep a bucket underneath my desk here. I'll just relieve myself while we're still talking. That's the way to do it.
Yeah, well, you know.
So where do you want to go with it now, man? You got to go, or you got some time? How are you feeling? You want to talk about anything personal? Anything? I mean, I'll go. I guess I got all my angst out, you know, from frustration with Peter, and we you know.
Yeah, I think we talked that out. So yeah, I could probably talk for another 15 or 20 minutes actually. So let's see. Just let you know what's going on. Like, So yeah, I mean, for a while I was in that slump. I was just really depressed. I still don't have much hope for humanity, but in case I'm wrong, I continue to try to give people a platform to speak. Hopefully make a difference.
Don't have hope in humanity. Don't think of it that way. Have hope. Just have hope in the potential that's in humanity. Because when you look at humanity in general, like when you look at society, when you look at the world, there's not much to feel good about.
Yeah.
There's absolutely more negative than good.
Yeah.
There's more bad than good. But look at the inventions, and look at the progress that we're making, and look at the individuals, and look at the leaders and the movements and the innovations and the passion and the talent and the creativity that is coming out of this species, out of the human race. Don't look at the human race as a whole. Look at what exists within it. Like, look at the Einsteins, and look at the Thoreaus and the Emersons and the Beethovens, and and Jacques Fresco's, and go down the list. My League of Humanity. Those people can give us hope. Think about those people that are on my list. If you've ever heard me read it, you think about those people. Those people give me hope. Because that's showing that the capacity that we have for good, for benevolence, and progress.
Yeah, I mean, we should have hope in nature, or whatever, or more to say, rather than hope in humanity, because humans are not the source of things. We're just products of nature as well. I get that. So yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's just that, I tend to get discouraged when I see that there's more bad than good in humanity. But things are going to change one way or another. Either by some miracle, humans will change drastically, or things will continue at the current rate, and climate change will kill us all. One way or another, it's going to change. I just don't know which.
Or the ticks. The ticks might save the day.
Yeah, they just might. If the ticks bite everybody, make them allergic to meat.
They've moved up to Canada now, so hey.
Yeah, well, us vegans have no trouble. See, I wouldn't mind being bit by that tick because it causes no effects for me.
Right. I don't know all the details, so I want to be clear here. I'm not wishing disease on people. I don't know what all the effects are, but what we're specifically talking about is the allergic reactions that cause an intolerance to red meat, which would be a wonderful thing for the general populace, so that we can actually clean up the environment, stop killing and abusing and mutilating animals, and obviously be healthier. So.
And speaking of ticks, I remember a little while ago, I think it was either Gaius or Angie or one of those people that shared the video about how to remove a tick without killing it.
Yeah.
And I watched that and I thought, this is actually very interesting. There was a way with tweezers to gently pull up on the tick in such a way that it did not cause harm either to the human or to the tick. And I thought that was such a beautiful thing. I know some people like WSD, who doesn't like bugs, would just.
I don't like bugs.
Yeah, that's exactly WSD.
You're a better man than me, because I don't like them bugs.
That's exactly what he says, But to me, that was an interesting thing, showing that when people just smash the ticks, that actually causes harm to the human, because then they barf all of that stuff into that human.
Or actually, when you pull them out the wrong way, the head stays buried. You rip the head off. You rip the body from the head, and the head will stay buried. So you have to do it a certain way. I think you have to twist it or something. You have to twist. I want to. Something's kind of compelling me to take this in a metaphorical direction, because I understand what you're saying, and that's a great point about sort of the symbiotic relationship, and not even the most vile parasite we can have respect for and tolerate. I appreciate that sentiment. But are we the parasite of this earth? Are we like the mold that's growing out of control, that's gonna have to be put in check by Mother Nature? Or I don't know. What is the future for humanity? I mean, I really want to like read that list. I don't have to do it now, but of the League of Humanity, the list of people, because those people will inspire you. Those people are all moving in the right direction. It's all biocentric, and they're all, it's all pantheistic. They just don't know it yet. Not one of them holds the label or the title of pantheist, yet they're all pantheistic and they all inspire me. So that's an important point too, is that like veganism, pantheism, and the fundamental ethical drive behind it is alive and at work in the world. You know, it might not have, you know, a specific label above it, but it's at work in and through all of these different movements. You know, it exists. So that's something to take heart in and believe in, and you know, to encourage you. If you consider that these people and these movements, they already exist. Veganism existed long before I came around. It started in the 1970s, and it's going to continue on long after I'm gone. So that's encouraging, man. Like,
well, you know, here's the thing to look at it, Poffo. Nothing is personal. Okay, neither veganism nor carnism is personal to us. We invented neither of them. None of course, you know, the fact that you can't attribute anything to anybody.
And they're all products of the environment. They're all products of environment. Right. And then we're getting into like the free will thing. No free will.
Yeah, exactly. But see, that Poffo is why we should not be taking things personally, even though sometimes we do. Sometimes that happens, you know. And I wish that everybody got this, because if they understood that, look, you're not the author of what your belief system is anyway. So we're not attacking you as a person, you know, if you happen to be a carnist or you happen to be something else where you're not getting it, you know, because we can't blame them. And it's so important to understand that. But it's sort of like, I view humans like a tick or like a mosquito or like a spider. I literally view them that way. You don't blame that spider or that tick or mosquito for being what it is. It couldn't help it. Right. But you still see the harm that they do, and it's a constant struggle, like, you know, knowing how, like, because you know me, the struggle I have is I have like this respect for life, and I don't want to kill anything, but at the same time, that is not to say that the existence and actions of many of us is good. There's a lot of bad. And if I could talk to the mosquitoes and the spiders and talk them into going vegan too, I would do so. You know? And that's what I feel like I'm doing when I talk to the humans. That's what I feel like. I really view them as one and the same.
Right. We are. And some humans are more evolved, more highly evolved than others, obviously. Some humans are very primitive and barbaric and very you know, trapped in a reptile brain mindset, and others are using, you know, all the parts of their brain, and still others, you know, are far more advanced than us. And I wish I could speak like Peter Joseph or Jason Silva. You know, I wish I had the
and Poffo, here's the deal:
the verbal dexterity that they possess.
Yeah. Now, it is true, I would estimate that the vast majority, over 95% of humans, really are nothing more than parasites, and they have no consideration for their actions and how it affects others. But there's just this tiny amount of people, you know, when it comes to, you know, the vegans and other people who like really care or who are doing good things. There are some good ones, I'm not denying that. I just wish that they were a majority rather than a minority. Because
how do we make them a majority? We have to get the media. Like, we have to use media and get the information out there. We have to utilize the technology that we have, whether it's writing, books, videos, documentaries, YouTube videos, TV shows, films, that we have to just exposure. Like, people just have to be exposed to it. And that's why I support AV so much, because we're literally exposing people to the truth.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, it's interesting. I mean, if only there was a way to guarantee that everybody ended up like you or I, you know what I mean? If there was only a way to.
I just thought on the other side of how sanctimonious that probably sounds to people, and to Peter, and if only people were just like us, because we're so highly evolved and advanced. And I mean, I can see how people can think that we're egotistical, and that we talk in a condescending way, but I can't be condescending when I'm saying I'm an animal and you're an animal, and we're doing what we're doing based on our experiences, and anything that I do is really never going to be enough, and anything that you do to me, I can never really blame you for. And so there is equality there, you know. There's equality in our inequality, because we're just earthlings, man, and we can only be what we are.
Well, and here's the deal. Now, Poffo, you understand me, obviously. If other people, I see how they would take it. But here's a good analogy for our listeners. Okay, there was this video shared on Facebook. It was like some rabbits and like an iguana and like all these different types of creatures.
Eating? Yeah, eating.
Yeah.
It was a capybara. It was capybara and like turtles.
There was all of these different animals, and there was this big pile of produce, and they were just all just around it eating it.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Yeah. And somebody commented on that and said, "Why can't everybody be like this?"
Yeah. I've seen that. I've seen that video many times. I've shared it many times, and I've heard the same sentiment echoed many times. It's exactly because it's what it tells us. Like, look at all these different species, the biodiversity, and yet they're all. And what are they doing? They're all feeding on vegetables, on vegetation. That's why they're not fighting, because they're all herbivores.
Exactly. And see,
actually, there was a dog in there too. Some dogs came up. The dogs are omnivores, but the dog was coming up stealing some lettuce too.
Yeah. See, the dogs will eat produce. In fact, it's like my friend Lucas says. Okay, he has a dog and 4 cats. And like his family said, their dog will eat anything. They've given it carrots before, that it'll eat literally anything you give it, you know? So it's like, it's very easy to have a vegan dog if you just feed it your fruits and vegetables. There was a pig that Miley Cyrus's pig wanted to eat a peach. I remember a video where she was talking, Miley Cyrus is vegan, because she saw the connection. She has a pet goldfish, and she was eating fish at a restaurant, and then she's like, "This is."
I've heard the story. Yeah, I've heard the story. She made the connection. Yeah, we can't say she's the most ethical or, morally sound person, but at least she's vegan. She's not contributing to harm and suffering when it comes to animals. What was I gonna say? There's something else. Oh, damn it, I'm losing my train of thought. But I just wish people could know and understand, and I swear by this. If everyone could watch Earthlings, if everyone could watch Cowspiracy, if everyone could watch What the Health, we would have a revolution of vegans overnight. I mean, that's literally what I point people to. Watch this footage and watch these documentaries. And 2 out of 3 are on Netflix now. Like, the only one that's not is Earthlings. And I have links ready at hand to send to people. But you just can't change your mentality until you're actually able to. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Poffo, let me tell you, when I first saw Earthlings, it was because it was linked to in Magnus Finding's book, Why We Should Go Vegan. And this is back in the days before I had a home internet connection. I downloaded that video back when it was free for anyone to watch. I used software to download that. And so I had it on my computer and watched it offline. And that was. Let
me ask you a question. Did you watch the whole thing through in one sitting?
Not in one sitting. I couldn't do it, man. Not in one sitting. But I mean, of course, I was already convinced to go vegan before I saw it. I mean, I fail to see why somebody would need to see that before they're convinced. But
it's necessary. It's absolutely necessary. That's because people don't realize that this is what goes on in circuses and zoos and in fur farms and medical experimentation, and this is what goes on in factory farming with chickens, with cows, with what goes on even with fishing. It's awful, man.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing is, I was already convinced though before that. And I agree, Poffo, for a lot of people it is necessary because they have to see it to believe it. But I already knew just from understanding all of the death and rape that was involved in the egg and dairy industries. Even aside from
Peter, Peter bashes me for using those words. When I say murder, he goes, "It's not murder if you're talking about animals." And I'm like, he denigrates this. He says I shouldn't use the words rape. I shouldn't use the words murder. I shouldn't use the words enslavement. These are inflammatory and they're just emotionally charged. And and it's wrong because these things only apply to humans. He says to me, these things only apply to humans. You know what this really comes down to? We really got to get to the core of this. How do you view other animals? If you view other animals as objects and commodities and things to be manipulated and used for your pleasure, for your to your own ends, or do you view them as individuals? Do you view them as living, breathing souls, as other beings on this same journey with us? Like if you don't view animals as persons, then you're not going to get any of this. That's the core of it all. And I've asked him point blank, do you or do you not view animals as persons? We're trying to raise the status of non-human animals to persons, and that's not an unrealistic goal. That's exactly how you view your dog or cat or bird or fish or pet reptile or whatever animal you've brought into your own circle of compassion and that you have an intimate relationship with. That's how you view them. You view them that they have an identity, that they're individuals. But we don't view the masses that we breed and we produce, for meat and for their body parts, for their flesh. We don't view them as individuals. Why? What's the difference? There is no difference. That's the point.
See, and that's the thing, Poffo. People used to get mad at me for using the word murder in regards to abortion, because of course I referred to abortion as murder. And then they're like, but that's, they don't like it because it's a morally charged word. It's, it's an inflammatory word, whatever, that the idea we shouldn't use this word or that word. And I feel we should use these words because we do use them in situations involving adult humans. Why is it different with unborn humans or non-humans? I don't see the difference at all.
We just gotta. It gets back to the fundamental premise is love and respect for life itself, the divine life principle that exists, that permeates all things, that is inherent, intrinsic in this world, that is in operation everywhere at all times. I want you to embrace pantheism, Chandler, not so you can call yourself a pantheist, but so that you can embrace reality and you can see that there is something that is so much greater than us, so much older than us, so much more intelligent than us, that we've yet to figure out sort of on a scientific level what it's doing, because it seems like it has no purpose because it's all a causal chain of events, as your atheist friends would say. But it's not just a causal chain of events if that chain of events leads to complexity and intelligence and consciousness. And if that consciousness can look back at its own origins and recognize its own divinity and manipulate and change reality for the better, well, that's much more than random chance. To me, that's divine. So that's pantheism, man. You don't have to use those words, but if you understand it, that's all that matters. If you understand it and it motivates you to love and respect and preserve life, and that's all that counts, man. That's all I care about. Call yourself whatever the hell you want to call yourself. Associate yourself with whatever label, with whatever religion. If your motivation is love and respect and consideration and compassion, then then we're all on the same page, man. That's all I want to see. Is I want to see all the differentiated aspects of Omnia love and accept all the other differentiated aspects of itself and embrace itself as one singular symbiotic organism, because that's what the universe is. It just doesn't know it yet. It's just learning that now through us. Well, on this planet through us.
Yeah, it is interesting. I was just thinking, how like it's because of the fact that most people are not going to end up like us. At least not it doesn't look like from my perspective, like there will ever be a time when the majority of people are like us, who are passionate vegan activists like us, who care so much. But if they're in a theoretical world where everybody was that way, then it could almost be argued that antinatalism would no longer apply if it was 100% guarantee.
Sure.
That
If we lived in an ideal, if things were more ideal, then go
Right.
ahead and reproduce and have children, and let
Yeah.
those and raise up those children with all the integrity and the capacity to engage in critical thinking and cogitate and ruminate and reason and dream and innovate and create continue to create and explore this universe. Then that is the purpose of existence right there, man.
Yeah.
We got to get over this hump. We got to get over this disparity, this stratification that's existed. I don't know. Maybe it's always existed, and it's just we're coming out of the infancy of our species, learning what it really means to be moral and to have dignity and to show love and respect and kindness and consideration. And I guess I'm thankful for my experience as a Christian, because I probably wouldn't have the same focus and emphasis on ethics and morality as I do now as a biopan, because that kind of was like the basis for it. I mean, I still live an ethical, moral life. I hardly ever overindulge, and I hardly ever do anything for for selfish reasons. So much of my existence is just dominated by giving of myself to others. Too much so. We still have to have that show about how to recharge and how to avoid emotional depletion and reinvigorate ourselves and revitalize, because we give so much of ourselves. What do we do to effectively just recharge? And I don't know. I want to go see Wonder Woman. I think it looks pretty awesome. I love movies. I love comic book movies, and I've been wanting to see that. Why? I need to treat myself and just go see it, because Amber doesn't want to see it. She doesn't care about comic book movies, but I'm like, this is about the empowerment of women. I mean, she's like a superwoman, like she's the only one that could take on Superman, and the visual effects look awesome, and I want to see it before it goes out of the theater. But that's my point of all this, is that's what I do. That's the only things I do is I'll watch movies. I'll just kind of escape into like the fantasy world for a little while. To escape all this violence and heaviness. And
I'll tell you, man. If I was in your area, I'd go see it with you.
Wonder Woman. I remember the old TV show with was Linda Carter, and I never thought she really looked that good in those spandex. That outfit, but it was just like a cheesy, just like the Hulk and Spider-Man. There's always a cheesy comic book, but every generation it gets better and better. Like I think she looks awesome. The actress that plays her, and the way they do the outfit and stuff. But,
now I don't know if you're familiar with this. You'll probably laugh at this, but did you know that there was this Christian, made by Christians? It was a superhero show called Bible Man. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I feel like I should know. I worked at a Christian bookstore. Like, when did it come out?
It was actually a whole series. I mean, this is VHS days.
We used to sell Veggie Tales.
Remember
Veggie Tales?
Yeah, Veggie Tales. I actually liked Veggie Tales.
And there was like a comic book about angels and stuff. But I'm not sure if I know Bible Man. But what about it?
Okay, Bible Man. Basically, he's a man in spandex who quotes Bible verses and defeats his enemies that way. It's like, if you're a fan of common superheroes, this is your worst nightmare. It's like if Superman was just quoting Bible verses at people.
All right, so like, do they have like magical spells? Like they have power? Like there's like evil demons, and then he like quotes like an exorcist, like power of Christ compels you.
Well, not only that, he also has a lightsaber.
Well, the lightsaber works. I mean, you just
Yeah,
everybody's asked that. You know?
lightsaber battles Star Wars style while quoting Bible verses at demons. It's like
it's as cheesy as like Captain Planet. I mean, at least Captain Planet had a really good message, but God, it was awful. I mean, you throw some garbage on him and he like loses his power. Remember Captain Planet? Oh no, oil.
I know. Yeah, I never saw that, but that sounds hilarious, man.
Captain Planet actually was from the 90s. Our first podcast, I referenced Captain Planet. I said it was from the 80s, but I'm going to correct myself. It's actually from the 90s.
Man, if you were here, I would totally show you the My Little Pony Equestria Girls movies. I bought them through iTunes.
It's okay.
No, seriously, man, you would love it. In those movies, they are, instead of ponies, they're humans, but it's the same characters. But they're like, you've got Twilight Sparkle, she's got purple skin and purple hair, but it's like, but it's awesome. Like.
I never know how to respond when you start talking about My Little Pony.
It's like you just have to experience it. You must experience.
Get me drunk and I'll experience it. Give me a case of Guinness and then we can hang out and I'll watch it.
Yeah, it'll like, we'll call it Sacred Horses, the ponytheist experience.
I wanted to not to break away from the levity for a minute, but there was an important point. I didn't know if I actually was able to articulate it. I wanted to say that something that's very important that actually I've now realized differentiates me from Peter. My philosophy is not static. It's not set in stone. It's emergent. And I'm actually open to new and more accurate information as information comes to me. My point is, when I was a pantheist, I wasn't a vegan. When I created Biopan, I wasn't a vegan. But I'd always loved animals, and I always had this affinity for nature and the natural world. But as a biopantheist, because of Nicole and many others who influenced me, I became vegan and I integrated that into my philosophy. So what I'm trying to say is, originally Biopan did not include veganism, but now it's included in it as the natural progression of pantheistic thought. It's a huge part of it, and it's what actually dominates my life right now as an animal rights activist. So I'm just trying to say that, like, I learned as I went along. I learned, and Peter does not seem open to learning anything new. He literally thinks that he's got it all figured out and he will never change and it's forever. And that will be his downfall, because you have to be stupid not to join forces with a movement as powerful as veganism. That, like, literally a movement that is entirely based on compassion and love and respect for animals, then this is the quintessential sort of physical manifestation of pantheism. So why would you not want to support that, or why would you not incorporate that? Because you want to win converts, because you don't want to offend people? I don't give a shit who I offend. I've never cared about offending people. I've only cared about telling the truth, finding out what the truth is. And so here it is. I support and promote veganism as part of my philosophy, and he supports and promotes vegetarianism, because vegetarianism doesn't ask that much of you. You just stop. Stop eating meat. You just cut out meat out of your diet. But it doesn't include what we wear and the products we use and supporting other forms of animal exploitation. So you're going to piss off a lot of people, and that you're going to make a lot more enemies. I think he doesn't want to make enemies. He wants to have as many people as possible embrace his philosophy, and I've never cared. I want as many people as possible to adopt my philosophy. But if it doesn't jive with them, I don't want them. Like, if they don't submit, I have my list, my 10 stipulations my screening statement that I sent out to everyone. They have to read that. They have to read that pinned post, that welcoming screening statement. They have to agree to it, read the stipulations, and they have to let me know if they have any problems with at the time. If they have any problems, we work it out. But if there's anything that that they're against or they're in opposition to, I say, all right, sorry, see ya, bye. Like I don't care. Go somewhere else. There's many other pantheist groups, but I don't care. I'm very selective, and it's important that I not that I have the numbers. I've never cared about the quantity. I've always cared about the quality, and that's the difference between me and him. Like he actually, you know, he wants to just almost like he doesn't want to, you know, rock the boat and rattle people's cages, and yet at the same time, his philosophy is very radical and it's very revolutionary, you know. But then personally, it's like he says it's okay for you if that's what you believe, fine, but I'm not going to impose that on other people. We have to impose something on others. We have to say that pedophilia is wrong in order to you know, discourage people from engaging in it. We have to say that, you know, polluting the environment is wrong, that materialism is wrong. We have to stand for something.
Yeah.
We have to, you know, draw a line in the sand.
See, here's the thing, Poffo. Why are people so afraid to say something is wrong? Why are they so afraid to do that? Because here's the deal. Like, if somebody is to tell me that I'm wrong about something, that is a valid opinion. But to say that there is no right or wrong, and let's just not.
He just said that. He just said that to me in the messages. He just said, I'm beyond right and wrong. I'm beyond good and evil. I don't see right or wrong. And I'm like, then you don't live in reality, man. Because I don't give a shit how monistic your understanding of the world is, how pantheistic you are, that we're all one. If I come over your house and I punch you in the face and I kick you in the balls and I steal all your shit, well, I'm representing a force of violence and treachery and you know, and selfishness, and you need to oppose me. That's your divine imperative, you know, to protect your own person, your own body, to defend yourself. So what are you talking about? It doesn't. Of course, we have to oppose things within this dialectical monistic unity. There is contrast and polarity, and there's going to be good and evil. There's going to be right and wrong. There's going to be black or white, and you know, maybe there's nuances and there's subtleties, you know, but literally, you know, to murder, to kill, to mutilate, to torture, to enslave, to sexually violate unnecessarily, apart from self-defense, that is morally reprehensible. That's an injustice that needs to be that needs to be opposed and stood against, and that's what veganism represents.
And see, here's the thing. He would, if that was done to him, what you described, or if what was done to all these other animals was done to him, he would know. Yeah, he would know.
Put yourself in their shoes. Put yourself in their shoes.
He would know it was wrong. Whether or not he ever admitted it, he would know it. And people like us who just admit that there's a right and wrong, that there is a good and bad, we're just the honest people who are not putting on a facade with all this bullshit.
So it's about using the sympathetic neurons, placing yourself in their shoes, just literally thinking about the victims. We need to think about the victims. I mean, that's the basis for all justice, isn't it? We associate ourselves with the victims and we sympathize with them. So that's what it comes down to. He's literally not sympathizing with the victims. He's only thinking about the anthropocentric perspective, the human-centered, you know, how it relates to human beings. Well, the world is not just populated with human beings, man. We're actually outnumbered with the insects, and I think there's more species of birds. There's more birds on the planet than there's more fish than humans. We're sharing the planet. We're not existing alone. This experience on this earth. So why the hell would you only think about the human perspective? You got to think about all.
And let's get something straight, Poffo. Even if humans were the only species on the planet, which they're not, but even if humans were the only species on the planet of animal, this problem of not sympathizing with the victims and it would still manifest in the refusal to say that racism is wrong. That
with other humans, you mean? So with the interaction with other human beings.
If you can't see that violence and slavery of blacks is wrong, among other humans. If you're still stuck. If you can't admit that that's wrong or that sexism is wrong,
so let's get to the core. Distinction. It's distinction that actually creates bigotry and racism and prejudice and discrimination. It's distinction. So I look different than my cat. My cat has fur. You see him on the window there?
Yeah, your cat has fur, and you're usually
all you
naked.
see is a silhouette. Silhouette, but yeah, I have fur too. But
well, yeah, most of your fur is on your top of your head and on your face here. So,
he has fur. He's small. He has canines. He's got ears. He's got a tail. He looks different from me. Every form of discrimination, of speciesism, comes down to different shapes and sizes and colors. Something looks different from you, therefore they are less deserving of love and respect and dignity and consideration. That's the problem. That's the core of all discrimination, right? Yeah. So what needs to be observed, what needs to be acknowledged, is the underlying essential unity that exists, the universality that exists among all life forms. So we're all carbon-based life. Everything on this planet is carbon-based. Okay, everything on this planet has DNA, has the molecular structure is very, very, very similar. We literally all came from the point of singularity, the Big Bang. We literally all came from the Earth. Let's just start with the Earth. We all came from the Earth. We're all Earthlings. We're all products of nature. We are all descendants of early hominids, and before that, the weasel-like creature that crawled out of the, after the asteroid crashed into the Yucatan, and literally destroyed all, the dinosaurs died out. So going all the way back to the reptiles, going all the way back to the first single-celled organism, we are stewards of this earth. We are sharing the planet. We are the sons and daughters of Gaia. So that's what unites us all. We are life forms, literally sharing the same space and breath and blood and DNA with almost every other life form here. So how different are we? Even though primitive nature is attacking and killing each other and there's competition, there's also cooperation. And now that we are capable of living in societies altruistically and cooperating with one another, then we should be doing the same. We should no longer be living in competition with one another and fighting and fighting for resources, because we're not primitive animals. We're highly evolved, intelligent beings. So what's the problem, man? Anyway. Well, so we have the capacity. As a species, Homo sapiens, as a race, the human race, we have these qualities. So what is the problem? Is it our thinking? Is it our reptile brain? Is it the fear factor? See that something looks different from you. Something is uglier than you. Something doesn't talk the same, doesn't walk the same, has different ideas. So it's a threat, or in tribalism, we embrace our own tribe. We live in small groups, and those who look like us and talk like us and act and think like us, those are the ones that we care about. Those are the ones we protect, our immediate nuclear family. If there's someone else, so this is a throwback to early man, like literally being primitive, coming out of the ice age, essentially having to fight and kill and struggle for survival. So we're struggling with the ancient brain that's in there, and in competition with the other parts of our brain.
And something I think other people might have ended up like us if only they had had a different past, if they had grown up differently, had they been raised differently, maybe if they hadn't been indoctrinated in their religion, or if they had experiences that led them to the same conclusions as us, Sure. But yeah, within humans is that potential to be like us, to be compassionate and go vegan, so we have that. Yeah, I'm not so sure how many other animals have that. I don't know if the lions will go vegan or not.
Depending on their environment. Literally, if you control the environment, then their aggressive tendencies will be stifled and literally, because they don't have to. If they don't have to compete for resources, they won't.
Right.
You've seen lions and cheetahs and tigers who will not. They could be drinking water at a reservoir, right next to a zebra if they're not hungry. They're not going to kill. They're not going to, if their needs are met, if they're full.
Right.
You know. So literally, if you can control, we talked about this once before. I think me and Trick talked about it. If we can control the environment, then you can suppress and stifle the more primitive base, more violent tendencies.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, a resource-based economy. Give everyone everything they need, okay? Provide their basic necessities and see what happens. See if it doesn't free up humanity to become more poetic and more artistic and more creative. And if it doesn't free up humanity to love one another and embrace and accept one another, because there's nothing to fight over anymore. The scarcity is a lie. It's a myth. Scarcity is what fuels capitalism, what fuels this monetary system. And the earth is not in want. It gives us everything we need. It provides everything, man. It's abundant and rich with every form of blessing. Everything we need is already here. We've created societies and constructs that limit us.
Yeah.
You know, we created the illusion of separation and distinction and scarcity and disparity, and that is what needs to change.
Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah, well, we probably do need to get off of here. I'm getting tired. I don't know about you.
I don't sleep. I don't get tired. I mean, I know I sleep when I pass out. I guess when I can't take it anymore. I clunk out. I take power naps. That's how I sleep. But you know, I could talk forever.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was good, man. Like, I feel like I got a lot out, and I actually do feel like I said a lot of important stuff that I feel like hopefully will resonate with people. And
yeah.
I don't know. We got to edit it to get the beginning part so it doesn't seem like we're talking shit about Peter the whole time. But
I don't know.
Out.
Yeah, I mean, see, for now, I mean, I wanna leave this whole thing just public for now, anyway. You know, so because people are gonna get a lot of benefit out of this. But then later on, we'll have to work at like editing a portion to just, you know, I don't know, for like the big core of the good talk. Like we
sure,
could have
keep the whole thing. You want to make it a philosophy, science, religion, or in personal opinion, or what?
We'll see what we do with it. I mean, for now, I mean, we'll have it. It'll be on my YouTube, and I want to keep it public, but we'll need to come up with a new title.
We've been all over the place, all across the board, but these are the relevant, pertinent, poignant issues that need to be discussed. And if you're not talking about this stuff, I don't know, man. I don't think it's really, if it's something else, I don't think it's really worth talking about. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't occupy and entertain ourselves when we need to, you know, with trivial and frivolous things, because we need that too, man. We can't always
aliens.
Aliens.
Mitch and Trick are having a debate about whether there's alien life on other planets or something.
Of course there's alien life. 8.8 billion Earth-like planets in our Milky Way galaxy alone. Of course there's everywhere.
Personally, I think, of course, there has got to be a life out there. If it can happen on Earth, it can happen on many other places as well.
Because the fundamental laws of physics are in place everywhere. So why not? Except maybe in a black hole. But I think that's what life, where everything came out of, was a giant black hole, the Big Bang. But man. But it's cool to expand, you know, your thinking and explore these sort of abstract and speculative topics. Definitely.
Yeah.
All right, brother.
Yeah.
Get some rest. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. This is available right now, right? Like, as soon as I'll share it.
Yeah, people have been watching us live.
Cool.
Yeah, sure. I'll stop.
All right.
I'll stop the broadcast.
Say something. I'll leave it up to you because I've been talking the whole time. You know, wrap it up, man. You're good at that.
Okay, totally. Hey, well, hey, thanks for listening, everybody. As you see, this hangout did not happen according to the original idea of the discussion between Poffo and Peter, but we ended up talking about some important things of pantheism and veganism, and we got to meet Poffo's friend Nicole. And so we'll have future talks. Let us know what you liked or what you want to hear more of. Thanks for listening, and good night, everybody.
Thank you.